We are live straight from the IBMOR den. What is going on, everybody? What's going on, Artist and MC? What is up, Bruce Almighty? Waiting for a couple people to come in. This is going to be a look into the millennials. It's going to just be us millennials talking for the first hour or so. Whenever I get someone in here that's in the millennial age, between the ages of 25 and 39. We're just going to have a talk amongst ourselves. And then after that, we'll invite everybody else on to have a look. 'Cause I know we want to take a look at like how we all grew up, ask questions and stuff like that. Talk amongst ourselves. The same thing I did with like BGS when we talked about the boomers. What do we see? What was some of the socializations or things that were try to place upon us? How did we grow up in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond? What events impacted us the most? Like 9/11, that had been a big thing. The 2008 housing crash, the recession, and all that. So I try to get PK and Mr. Z up here. I know they are the two more prominent millennials because they're in the ages of 30, because I wanted to get someone that's around 30 years old. So I'm waiting on PK. I talked to him earlier, and he said he's got to go to the store real quick. Mr. Z just dropped the video 30 minutes ago, so hopefully he'll show up. But anybody else that's a millennial that wants to come on while I'm waiting on those two, you're welcome to come up and have this conversation real quick. If you're between the ages of 25 and 39, or in that age range, get on the panel so we can have this conversation. Okay, this is a conversation that, I wanted to have since I had the boomer one, so I figured it'd be fair to have one for the millennials. But other than that, how you guys doing this Saturday? Bruce Almighty, Artisan, AB Media, and Joe Average Brother. What's up? Joe says, I'm trying to understand millennial since I'm tutoring one. Aren't you a millennial, Joe? Or are you a Z? I thought you was a millennial, but you might be a Z. I'm not too sure about your age. I said you got the shop, Artisan. Did you ever get your shipment of comic books in that you had to order? I know you said you were trying to get some in. Or did they still haven't came in yet? Because I need to order Lunar coming next week. Okay, cool. Nice. Oh, you're older than BGS? What's going on, Aqua Techie? Yeah, this is a panel for all millennials. So any millennials from the ages of 25 and 39, get on the panel so we can have the conversation. Because, like I said, in my lifetime, because I'm the older millennial, right? I was born in 1982, and I know my situation as far as some millennials is completely different. Like, it's completely different than some Gen Xers too, because I still had both my parents up until when my mom died in 2006, and I still remember those lessons and teachers they taught to me because they were old school folks. They were I guess you could say salt of the earth people. And so when it came to me and it come to everybody else that I've interacted with when I was in my 20s, most of them were in single parent homes. Compared to what I grew up around, you had a lot of black families in the area. You didn't really see a lot of single mothers out there. At least not for what I saw. It was always a mom and a dad. I never really saw like a mother by herself like that. Maybe one or two. But it was never really just like a woman always had a man on her. So when I go out into the world out here in Raleigh, that's when I start seeing a lot more black people or black children that's in my age range that had single mothers. Because most of my community had like an intact families. Like most of the my cohorts in growing up, they had both their parents, mom and dad. So it's just interesting to see what millennials are going through and what they've been going through and stuff like that. So it is. What's going on in Tampa? Appreciate you, Aquatech, for the $5 cash app. Appreciate you, sir. So, brother, the Mechadon piece, the millennials have it figured out. To a certain extent, still, brother, from what I'm seeing. Are you in the ages of 25 and 30? I mean, 25 and 39. Okay, you'll probably come back next week, so brother, because I'm gonna do a Gen X panel too. I got Artisan MC has graciously said that we'll do a Gen X panel, so I want to do something like that, which I figured might be good. So if you can get yourself a microphone or anything like that, see you can get on the panel. We can have a discussion. But that's cool. You can still stay and watch. I ain't trying to kick you off the show or anything like that. And you say you're in Charlotte. Okay. 44. Well, time will tell, sir. Time will tell to see if there will be the greatest generation. I think that might go to the Z's. I'll say the Z's will probably be a better generation than the millennials, but we'll see. Like I said, you never really know until a generation until they reach, I'll probably say about 45, 50 years old, because that's when you see the totality of their life. Because at that age, they would have already had raised some kids. They would have went through their 20s. You would have had to see just about, their whole life ahead of them. Because after like 55, like 45, 55, it just goes downhill from there. Just saying. AB Media,
what's going on?
You are the first millennial to come up here, sir. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, getting my taco stuff ready.
Oh, making tacos. Okay, I hear you. I just had a calzone. That's why I was running a little bit late, because I woke up a little bit late. So, millennials, how you
what
feel
do we do
about
now?
No, this is just gonna be like an interview process, like I do with BGS with the boomers and stuff, and just ask questions. Like, so you're about my age, right?
Yep, 38, a little younger.
Okay. All right. So, what did you notice when you were growing up that you noticed that now since you're an adult, you notice like any socializations they try to place upon you as a young age? Did you remember any of that stuff that was at that time, like in the 80s?
Um,
Oh, we got PK in here.
what's going on, PK?
What up, y'all? Sorry for waiting.
No, you good.
Shopping.
No, I understand. Gotta get some food. But go ahead, AB.
Well, right before I was in high school, people gave me the gist that high school was going to go a certain way, and when I got to high school, it was movies and stuff, and talking to other people that high school would go a certain way. But when I actually got to high school, it almost flipped on its head.
Explain.
Well, I was a bigger dude, and I didn't have I had a little muscle by the time I got to high school, but not a lot. And I thought when I got to high school, if I ever tried to get with any girl, that a jock would take my girlfriend. Well, turns out I had the opposite problem.
Like,
I had to keep their girlfriends off of me.
oh, okay. So what did they tell you about high school? What was the socialization about that? What did they try to push on you that was about high school? That's what I'm trying to
one of the big ones was that guys would peer pressure you, would be the biggest ones peer pressure you to have sex, and that turned out to be total bullshit too. It was the girls. That didn't just start with this current younger generation. That's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, yeah.
You would think it would be the guys, but no, it was the girls. In fact, to be honest with you, when I was in high school, I didn't really care what the guys thought about the situation, because I feel if you screw somebody, that's between you and them. That's not my business, not really. And I've always been like that.
All right. What about you, PK? The socialization that the society had placed upon you at your younger age. I guess you would probably be like in the 2000s.
Yeah, I was
in your younger years. What are you trying to?
Yeah, I would classify myself as a younger millennial or a late millennial.
Yeah.
Because I'd say the midpoint for millennials is what, about like 30 something.
Probably like 32.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm on the younger side. In my experience, the socialization from high school was very poor in terms of, I guess, the focus. So my experience for high school mostly centered around females, not too much education unless you were in a advanced placement class, and how people wanted or were getting money in drugs. That's about it. That was my high school experience. My high school, what I did in high school is obviously different because I graduated. But I had a split experience because for freshman and sophomore year, I went to an basically all black high school. Wasn't all black. There were some Hispanic people there, but pretty much all black. We had how you go to a white high school and you see one black person, you're like, okay, that's the token black person. Well, during my freshman and sophomore years, it was like you see a white person, that's the token white person. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So that was my freshman and sophomore experience. Then when I went to junior and senior year, I went to another high school because we moved to another part of Georgia. That was when I moved to North Atlanta. And when I went to this high school, it was much more, how do I put this?
Mix.
Yeah, I'd say mixed. Yeah, mixed to a certain extent.
Okay.
But it was more affluent.
Right.
So it received more funding. Education was taken a little bit more seriously. They actually had some sort of future preparations. and more uh, more access to better teachers and things of that sort. So I think that the socialization that I received throughout the entirety of high school, however, was that once you get into the real world, um, all of this, I guess, high school drama, things are taken more seriously. And what I ended up finding out, is that no, that isn't the case. When you come out into adulthood and you start to move as an adult, most people still don't take life seriously. They actually still operate as if they were still in high school.
Yeah.
So that was my experience.
Like, I would say, because like I said, I'm older than you guys, so I remember the whole the drug campaigns on TV. Say no to drugs, dare programs that they put in place, which didn't really do anything. No,
Yeah. I remember
not
some of
for-
those.
Yeah, so I remember they pushing that in school. I remember I used to have some of those dare T-shirts. I remember the feminism that was in schools, because they used to watch all these feminist movies. Like they showed the heck out of The Color Purple when I was growing up. I saw The Color Purple. I saw The Color Purple all from middle school all the way up into high school. That was the one movie that was shown a lot. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of propaganda.
So that was the stuff that I was noticing in my growing up in school, where they used to have all these feminist programs that were coming out and showing to us, TV shows. It was stuff like that I've noticed. The whole what else did they used to do back in there? I remember dress codes they implemented. That was I guess every generation went through that, so I guess that won't be like social.
Depends on school you go to.
Yeah. So
I went to private school for a certain amount of time, so I was used to a dress code. Slacks and no jeans, yada yada yada. They might give us one dress down day on Friday, but that's about it.
I remember that. Yeah, when I actually attended a private school during my elementary years, and yeah, dress codes existed there, but after that, I never had a dress code, or at least a slacks and button down shirt and school uniform. I never had that again after I reached high school.
Yeah, the dress codes at my school is like, let's say if you were a girl, if you wore shorts, your shorts couldn't go, your shorts couldn't be like past your fingertips, like when you put your arms to the side. So your shorts had to be long. You couldn't wear booty shorts or Daisy Dukes or anything like that.
Right.
At school.
Oh shit.
That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story.
But
I'll talk about that later.
but you had to make sure that your shorts had to be at a certain length. The boys couldn't sag or anything like that.
Yeah.
Girls couldn't wear tight fitting clothing like that. Or loose fitting clothes, because when I start and look back how we used to dress back in the day, we looked all, we had like just an innocent damn look on us compared to what I see kids wearing to school now.
Yeah. Even when I was attending high school, man, some of the shit the girls got away with is just ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
The girl, when I went to high school, I went to a mixed high school. When I say mixed, it was kind of a cross between, it was a township school, which is kind of a cross between a public and a private school. It's a little bit more well-funded public school, I would say. And they had a semi-dress code. The girls back then, we couldn't have cell phones. Back at the time, imagine telling these kids that now. Couldn't have cell phones. They would... I literally got searched because somebody had a beeper on them. They took us all into the office and searched us. And they had this skirt. I forget what the skirt, I think it was to the knees or something, or a little bit above the knees. The skirt limit was. Didn't matter because as I told the older guys that used to use mirrors, we didn't need them by the time I got to high school.
Yeah.
Didn't make much difference. You still be looking up a girl's skirt without trying.
Nah, most of the time they would show you what's underneath there.
Exactly.
They would just
I got plenty of
go off to
shows.
the side. Yeah, they would go off to the side of the football field or something like that and just show you.
Yep.
There were some exhibitionists at my school, so that's nothing
yeah.
new. Like I said, that's the reason why they call it a dugout at school.
Oh yeah, and I was in school choir, and all kind of shit went down. Let's just put it that way. In fact, I was talking to my buddy. His daughter going to the same school. I was like, look, if she's in them show choirs, watch her.
Yeah, there's two. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, PK.
There's two places that where all the hoes seem to be at, and it's usually in band, choir, and then third on the list is usually sports, because any sport, like, you got hoes coming in and out of there, but those two places especially.
And since we're talking about that, the alphabet situation is not new. It's really not that new. There was a couple of brothers, and this is how I judge them. So if they're cool, I leave them alone, and they're usually fun to hang around with. Some of them are cool. Some of the alphabet, you know what I mean by alphabet, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are cool. Some of them are assholes, and that's how I judge them. Just like anybody, just like a heterosexual person. Yeah. They don't try to force themselves on you or nothing like that.
I don't know. In my high school years, the alphabet people, so to speak, were pretty flamboyant, and they tried everybody.
See, in my school, they weren't even like that, because you didn't know. You said someone was gay, but you didn't know if they were, and so because you gotta remember, I'm older, so they didn't really talk about it. It's just now that I'm seeing, like, oh wow, she's gay. What? Like, because she's on Facebook now.
Yeah, one was a little flamboyant, but he didn't. He never tried to. They weren't trying to force themselves on anybody.
Yeah,
they kind of stuck to themselves, and in their own little sector. If they didn't get that sense off you, they weren't going to bother you.
Nah, see, no, it didn't work that way around my time. Nah, dog. Like,
they would
even if you said, even if you said nah, bruh, they still coming at you.
Wow. Okay.
Like, seriously, it was bad. I mean, and it wasn't something that is unique to me. It was, multiple guys that I've seen that this happened to. It's like they would try to impress themselves upon you, even if you're like, no, bro, like, no, stop it, no.
Hot Atlanta.
Yeah, man, it's.
Okay. That's a totally. You went to school in Atlanta? Oh man, I feel bad for you. Okay.
Well, I went to high school and middle school in Atlanta. I did 2 years of middle school, 4 years of high school.
Okay. I believe you did. Yeah.
All right, so I guess the first major event that we will have to deal with the millennials is 2001 9/11. Since that was a major event.
Actually,
in all of our lives.
I had another one, but go ahead. I had another event, but go ahead.
Like what event before 9/11?
Columbine. That happened when we was in high school.
Yeah, that did. Because
we was in because I remember we was in the study hall when that happened.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, us older millennials will probably know about that. PK,
yeah, that's true.
Did you know anything about Columbine when you was in school?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, PK might be a little too young, but I remember Columbine specifically because when the details came out, like, there's no way they could pull that in the school. Because you had to understand, the security guards were full-blown sheriffs. They were full-blown sheriffs. They had guns and everything. I'm like, there's no way they could have pulled that off at my school. Like, at least that's what I thought at the time. How about you, Art?
I've heard about it, but they didn't start implementing a lot of stuff into the school system like you got to think, like I graduated like a couple years after that, so PK would have had to deal with the fallout because of that, mostly because of what was the stuff they were implementing across schools across the board. It probably didn't happen to me until probably maybe senior or junior year, but at that point I was already out at my age range. Like I think PK probably would have like more stricter school policies to try to conduct that, try to make sure kids weren't doing that kind of stuff. But
yeah, well, you have to understand, my school was already strict. If you got in a fight, there's a strong possibility you would get arrested.
No, I was just saying like it back in the South, you were able to have a shotgun in your truck because some kids used to go hunting before they went to school.
Okay.
You were not allowed to do that anymore.
Oh wow.
And if you did that, they would call you to the office, and then you would have got reprimanded. Because like I said, in the South, we did a lot of hunting, and so kids you had guys that used to go hunt, put the shotgun in the car, and then come to school. That was normal. Now they couldn't do that anymore, and I know there was some big stuff about that, about one kid who did like go hunting.
Oh wow.
So
that's
it was those.
I didn't know that.
And then we had more secure. I do remember we did have more security guards at our school at the end of my term at high school. Like we had, instead of like having like one person just walk the hall, make sure everything is right, we had like 3. So they increased security. They made they had if you was in the hall, then you had to go straight to the main principal's office to figure out like why were you running in the hall. So things were a lot more strict, just because of what happened during that time.
I can't really speak to the Columbine issue too much. I can talk about some of the fallout because I mean, like, I know that during my middle school years is when I started to notice police officers. So when I was maybe, I would say 8 to like 12.
Wow.
That's when I actually started seeing police officers, roam the halls and actually, I'm saying, search people for weapons and, anything illicit. That's when I started to notice that. And I mean, I even got searched before, you know what I mean? So that shit's happened to a lot of people, especially in my age group. I mean, and then they started doing, I didn't know what a shooting drill was when I first heard about it, because I didn't actually have a shooting drill until I got to middle school. I think it was like 7th grade.
That's something different. I never had it. I don't even know what a shooting drill is, but I can believe it.
But that's why I say he's part of the fallout, because when we were going through that Columbine, that pretty much happened when we were in high school. So by the time we were getting out, they were implementing all this stuff. And PK, since he's a younger millennial, had to deal with that fallout. Like, I didn't know children were going through shooting drills, so that's new to me. Because we never went through shooting drills. We had like fire drills and stuff like that. And I remember doing tornado drills where you had to like go hide in the corner.
Oh yeah, we had tornado drills and stuff like that,
but shooting drills, that's something new. So
yeah. So what I vaguely remember it because it wasn't very eventful. Basically, what they would do is it'd be like a 5-minute drill where the entire school would essentially sound the alarm, and essentially what you're supposed to do is lock the door, cover the windows, and then barricade the door, and then wait. And that's what they did. And then they really didn't ever go into detail with the children about why they were doing this, but it was mandatory, therefore you do it. So that was my experience with that. And yeah, they did actually increase the police presence, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys had a lot of like actual police officers, not just like security, but actual police officers in your school. We had actual like off-duty police officers, or part-time police officers in the school.
We did. At least in my high school, we did. We had fully armed police officers in our school for security.
Yep. And so, we at first, when I was in elementary school, I had never seen a police officer at the school before, except for in extreme incidents, right?
Right.
Right.
Then going into middle school, we just had 3 that were stationed there at any given time,
Hmm.
you know. And by the time I got to high school, it went up to 4, and they had their own little office on the campus, and if you got into serious trouble or you got accused of anything serious, you know,
Mm.
they're involved, and they actually can interrogate you and go through the whole process and read you out your Miranda rights.
Yep. Okay, you gotta remember all these teenagers getting tossed around in schools because of these school officers. That's the fallout. You had these security. You didn't have that when I was growing up. You didn't have that
Mhm.
stuff like that when I was in high school.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, when my brothers and sisters were in high school, because they were older than me, they're Gen X, but they didn't have security officers like that. Now, in PK's age group, they had the security officers where they could put your hands on you if you were out of line like that.
And they did.
Yeah.
They very much did. I mean, shit. I had 2 run-ins with them personally for different issues at different times. One in middle school, one in high school, and neither experience was good. One time I actually had to go to court. I was a child, so it's not on the record, luckily, but I had to go to court. Because of an accusation in relation to stealing. And just things that are really solvable in school are actually sometimes meted out by the law in school now, and it didn't used to be that way as far as I understand it from what I hear. Because I remember talking to my parents about it when it was going down and explaining the situations to them, and them advising me on how to handle things, and them demanding to speak to a lawyer before I speak to them, things like that. It's like, I understand why these things are taken more serious today because of things like Columbine, but to a certain extent, you know, school has become a lot softer because of many of these past occurrences. I'd say,
Hmm.
because I mean, like,
Mhm.
I remember when I was in elementary school, I had a rough elementary life, so I was a different breed of kid. But like fights and things like that would usually be handled by the teacher and escalated to your principal. And if your principal couldn't handle it, they would call your parents. Then you would get suspended or expelled, depending on the seriousness of the issue. And middle school, all that changed for me. Like, if you got into a fight or something like that, both of you motherfuckers are going to the office, and you're both suspended.
Oh,
Mandatory.
oh yeah, that happened to me too. When I got in fights on the bus because I beat the fuck out of this guy that tried to mess with me because I was defending myself. Didn't matter if you defended yourself or not. They still had to suspend both people. So, or
That's
even or
problematic.
or even if you just held the guy down. Like, there was one instance to where the guy tried to fight me and I held him down till the teacher got there. I still got suspended.
You see, that's problematic because it socializes people into being passive in situations where you may or may not be the aggressor. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're not the aggressor in an altercation, there shouldn't be any penalization for that. You're being subtle. Like, kids are being, me included, is being subtly socialized into believing you should be penalized for defending yourself, when
Well, the thing,
that isn't the way that the law works, and that isn't the way that the real world works. However, that's what's being instilled in these children.
well, to me, because I was like, okay, I'll just hold him down and then maybe I won't get in trouble. When I got in trouble, I said, you know what, fuck it. If I'm gonna get in trouble, I'm gonna get in trouble all the fucking way. So the next time I got into a fight, I beat the fuck out of that motherfucker till someone pulled me off him. And then I went to the same lady. She's like, why are you in and getting another fight for us? And I told her, last time I held the guy down just so he wouldn't attack me, just so the teacher got me, I still got in trouble. So why the fuck why not get in the fight? And I looked at
Mhm.
her and she just couldn't say anything. She expelled me. She expelled me. Well, not expelled me, but I got suspended from school for a whole week. He got 3 because this is my second time being suspended for that year. So I said, cool, I'm on vacation.
Yeah, I had countless suspensions, man. Oh my god, I got a lot. I got a lot. I was a bad kid. I was a good bad kid. It's
Good,
weird.
man.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, man. I was actually a great student.
I
Like
only
in
got
elementary
suspended
school.
once. Please don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean I was an angel. I just knew how to kind of stay out of trouble.
No, you knew how not to get caught.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, when I
Well,
said that, don't get it twisted. I was no angel, but
I remember in elementary school, for instance, that my brother, when he was still alive, got suspended from school for making a what do you call it? A rudimentary slingshot.
Mm-hmm. Got a paper.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and he
remember
got
those.
suspended for that. And then I remember I went to school and got suspended for drawing a what did I draw? I think it was like a gun or something. Like drawing a gun on a piece of paper. You know, I was drawing. I was just drawing as a little kid, and got suspended for that.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I should have been suspended a long time ago. The many superhero cable drawings I made with them big giant guns shooting everything. Shit. I even had like I drew a pseudo naked woman. And
Yeah, man.
I didn't get suspended for that. So damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, schools have become a lot. I mean, I got to watch some of the transformation of that from elementary to middle to high school. You know what I mean? Because things got more and more strict as I got older. For instance, we had what is it called? Gun-free zones and drug-free zones and fucking, all that shit. I got to see all of it happen in real time. I mean, the DARE program always existed, sure, or at least for my entire life, but actually having plasters and these things talked about is a different thing. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty in your face. You know what I mean? Like, so for instance, even on the windows and the doors to a lot of entrances to schools, like the next time you go to a school, just look and see. If you live in any major city, you've probably already seen it. They generally have something on the window or door saying like this is a gun-free zone or a weapon-free zone or something of that nature.
Or has something with McGriff the crime dog.
Yeah.
I remember those PSAs back in the 80s. All right, so let's talk about 9/11. Because I was at a school getting out of school at that time. And I think I was working my first job when that happened. So what was the atmosphere that you felt around 9/11?
Somewhat panic. I think I was off that day. I think I was still going to college at the time, and my mother woke me up. It's like look what's going on TV, and I was like, what's going on? And the first plane had hit, and the second plane hit, and I watched those buildings fall down live on TV. I felt like I was in an action movie. It was, it's one of those surreal moments. Like, am I in a movie? I'm in the Twilight Zone somewhere. This can't be happening.
Well, I mean, for me, my experience was I was a kid. I mean, it's a lot different. I was in middle school at the time, I believe, and we watched it live. Teacher wheeled in the box TV into the room and whatnot, and I remember watching it and being indifferent to it because I didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't understand the ramifications for it either. So I just didn't get it. It was mostly confusion. It was mostly the teachers that were crying and wigging out that made the rest of the kids in the room, kind of freak out because they saw buildings falling. So they understood the implications.
So monkey see, monkey do, and everybody's going crazy.
Yeah, people understood, people are dying, but we don't understand anything else.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, hindsight is a hell of a thing, but at that time, that's what happened.
Um, I think I did see the towers fall. I think I saw the second one fall. I didn't see the first one fall. Of course, I don't think really nobody saw the first one fall until New York. If you're unless you were in New York in that area, but
Mm-hmm.
I remember me and my dad was watching the news on it, and I was like, wow, someone actually did this on American soil, and I saw it because I remember Oklahoma City bombing and stuff like that. Some type of white supremacist terrorists, whatever stuff like that. But to actually see someone from another country come in and bomb your country and take airplanes and stuff like that and destroy a part of your own country, I was just like, wow. And I remember my dad looking at me and say, "You can take note of this day because this is a day in history."
Yeah, that's
And
true.
and I always remember him saying that to me because I'm pretty sure he's lived through MLK dying and all this stuff in history that he had that I guess the privilege to live through it while I'm just had to learn from the books.
Right.
JFK getting assassinated, MLK getting assassinated, Malcolm X getting assassinated. He was a kid when all that stuff was going on. And he learned about the Vietnam War, stuff like all this stuff. So it would be a day that I will ever remember. And I remember the sentiment of the people under there because people wanted revenge. People were infuriated because this happened on American soil. And when you go back and look at it, people were willing to give up their rights at that time, just so they can go ahead and get these motherfuckers. Now they say like, okay, why are government's all in our business? Well, it's because you let your anger get ahead of you.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, they won't think
Pass
about
that spying law.
that Patriot Act and stuff like that. But hindsight's 2020.
And I'm sorry for the record. I know this is not necessarily connected to well, it is, but I still want to beat the shit out of the shoe bomber for what we have to go through airports now because I hate taking off my shoes at the airport. I just want to get him in the room and just beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, after 9/11 is when you got the NSA and when you got all the spying and all the rest of that. The Patriot.
Yeah, but we didn't have to start taking off his shoes to that knucklehead got to do it.
Well, I mean, hell, you got how to bomb your ass, so luckily you ain't got to do a cavity search.
Lord,
open up.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a catalyst to everything that happened in 2000s.
Pretty much. Well, that the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the I think that a lot of these things that happened were terrible, and they had a lot of bad consequences in terms of war and spying and information stealing, or I guess giving because we agreed to it, right? But
yeah.
However, we did have some golden years at that time as well in terms of entertainment. So I mean, there's an upside, right? I mean, so
yeah. Let's go into before we get into the whole entertainment whole bit. Let's just go down the line. Because the next big event at the time was the 2008 crash. How did y'all experience that?
Me personally and my family and my extended family experienced financial issues during the crashes. Or, luckily or unluckily, it depends on how you see it. My parents by that point had already lost their home, so it didn't impact me as an individual as much as say people who were probably living, some of my extended family members who were, losing their homes at that time. However, I did see that, it created a lot of financial difficulty for those around me who were engaged in the workforce at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it didn't have any direct impact on me as an individual, though, as a child or as a teenager at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it had a direct impact on my family, especially if you're in a millennial, and even some of the Gen Xers. Only really the baby boomers and above own a house. Well, I take that back. One of my older cousins, who's a Gen Xer that lives in North Carolina, owns a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they're doing some other stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, is apartment or living with somebody. It really, and then I mean, the housing, especially after housing crisis, it really made you take a look at how we do stuff. Even how they teach it, teaching how because they'll teach you about buying houses and stuff in college, and even then it's what it it just didn't add up to what was going on with the housing crash. With the derivatives and all that bullshit. Them putting absurd betting absurd things on houses and stuff. Excuse me.
Well, yeah, so I think that it affected you guys that were already involved, a little bit of the later millennials, more so
Mm-hmm.
than it impacted me. It did impact me in terms of when I got into the workforce, but it
Yeah.
didn't impact me initially, like when it first hit. It didn't impact me until I got into my teenage years when I was looking for work and actively trying to involve myself in the workforce. That's when it impacted me because a lot of places weren't actually looking to hire low skilled labor. They were actually, I noticed that at the time that I entered the workforce, um, what, 10 years ago? Well, not 10 years ago. I'm getting old. 9 years ago?
Oh,
9 years
okay.
ago?
Yeah.
10 years ago? Some around there, right?
Yeah.
Just round it out. What I noticed is that at that time, a lot of people who were older and may have had degrees or may have had expertise or businesses were
Mm-hmm.
actually coming back and working in low skilled labor jobs. And so a lot of jobs that otherwise would have been worked by teenagers like me at that time um, were facing a very tough labor market and were
Mm-hmm.
having trouble getting into the workforce. And even if we did get into the workforce, we were being paid extremely low because they were entry level jobs. You
Yeah,
know,
because I do remember that time where even if you worked at McDonald's, if you had a degree, you were preferred because they made an effort to make sure the college graduates actually had work rather than just people who never went to college. That's why people are talking about like you need to make sure you get your degree so you can have a better chance of getting the job. But the job wasn't paying all that well.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember there was a push for that to go on in companies to make sure you hire college graduates so that way they can have some money.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when 2008 happened, and me working in the restaurant industry at that time, it was scary to be honest with you to think about it because you had to think like we went from being busy on a Thursday night to actually having like one or two calls for the whole entire day.
Wow.
And like we were just looking at each other, just like, yo, this shit's scary. Like we had to like switch out our drivers frequently just because they didn't want to just sit around and not do anything. They wanted to make some money, so we had to make sure we had a structure to a way so that way they could be somewhat happy, even though they weren't getting paid a lot of money because there was no deliveries being done because everybody at that time everything was uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was uncertain. Nobody didn't want to spend no money. People hunker down. Um, it was a scary time for everybody because you. That's why I don't think people understand when they say like let this whole thing burn. You really do not understand what you're talking about because if 2008 was just a like a little push, what did
Mm-hmm.
you get a shove?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, 2008 should have been the crash of the entire market, but we ain't gonna go into economics. But we ain't gonna go into that.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. So, I mean,
Mhm.
that's why I say, like, you know, it was a scary time for everybody, especially when all that stuff started happening. So to me, I think as far as my family's concerned, luckily we got out unscathed for the most part. Hell, my brother did pretty well. I mean, he bought his house during the recession, so um, from as far as my family is concerned, I'm pretty much kind of unscathed. I know I think that was around the time when my dad sold the house, but I think he sold it because he just didn't want to pay anymore. Because, you know, at that time my mom had passed and my sister was trying to live with him, but he got tired of her shit, so he just started selling and started living with his sister.
Oh wow. Okay.
gotcha.
Um, so as far as boomers, okay, we got to bring this up.
Oh, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about boomers. Okay.
Oh boy.
A lot of millennials have issues with the boomers, and so is it? When I have to ask, when we talk about boomers, are we talking about family members first, then society, or is it just you think about just society in general?
To the extent society in general, because white kids are on the same stuff. And in fact, that's probably where that hashtag comes from. Okay, boomer. That goes around.
They're saying it to their parents.
Yeah, okay, boomer.
I don't even think. I think that there's a discrepancy in the ages because unfortunately, I think that a lot of Gen Zers get lumped in with millennials for some weird reason. I don't know. Boomers still look at millennials as if they're, their children. I guess in a way, chronologically, when we're talking about age.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. Because a lot of these memes now that are coming out now about boomers aren't from millennials anymore. They're not. They're from Gen Z. The okay boomer girl is a Gen Z girl.
Oops.
But I mean,
But a lot of these millennials in this space talk mad shit about boomers. So
they do. Yeah, I agree with
They
that.
do.
That's true.
So
I think that's justifiable.
I got called a fake millennial.
In seriousness or just joking around?
In seriousness, when I was talking about boomers and stuff like that before, they called me a wannabe boomer. In one of my comment section. Yeah. Like you just a wannabe boomer. I was like, thank you.
Called you a wannabe boomer, huh? Okay.
I think there's some angst. Yeah. In between boomers and millennials for sure.
Yeah, there is.
I think it's justifiable too. I don't think that this is unilateral at this point. It was at one time. Unfortunately, the first stone that was thrown was actually from boomers to millennials, because the people who were actually involved in a lot of this uh, uh, tug of war, so to speak, or angst, was actually through mass media, was through television, like talk shows talking about millennials, and most of the talk shows that were talking about millennials happen to be of the either the Gen X or Boomer generation, and they were throwing stones repeatedly at millennials and about how they were entitled, lazy, getting avocado toast, you know what I mean, going to Starbucks and not actually handling their business. So I think that the first stone was thrown by them.
Do you think they were justified though?
To some extent. To some extent, yes. But to some extent, no.
All right,
It's not a
upon that.
It's a mixed bag.
I think that by and large, the way that the boomers and the millennials were socialized was different. And so we try to do a apples to apples comparison as if our lives were entirely one to one, and that we were given the same opportunities, or even to some extent better opportunities than boomers. However, we're acting as if this world hasn't changed when it actually has.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of boomers suffer because of the fact that millennials by and large are doing worse than them, and they don't actually know how to cope with that. And the way that they cope with that is by attacking millennials for being inadequate. And that inadequacy isn't related to something they did or didn't do in most situations.
Mm-hmm.
In some situations it is, because they know these people personally.
Yeah.
But when you start to talk about entire groups as if they were all lazy, or uh, as if they were, how do I put this? All entitled, that just isn't the case. You know, people, millennials span a generation of 20 years. You can actually break down who's doing what at this point, and really get numbers behind what's going on with our generation, and even look on a timeline as to what happened throughout the years during our generation, and compare that side to side to the boomer generations, and see that everything is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of the hate that millennials get, at least half of it is unjustifiable from boomers. At least half of it.
I mean, I look at it like this, and I've always looked at this. Each generation will be hated. Because I shared videos with you, PK, about how the silent generation didn't like the boomers. Then you had in the 80s, I remember they called Generation X Generation Nothing. Then the millennials will get it. Now Z's will get it from millennials, because Z's try to cancel Eminem, and then millennials said nope.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think each generation is going to be critiqued. There's going to be good things about the generation. There's going to be bad things about the generation.
True.
And from my experience, because I used to be a manager and had to manage these people, and then had to listen to what they're saying. Like, I just had a recent conversation. Would have got my job with one of his friends, and she's a millennial, and she says the government should actually pay for her to have a house. And we both looked at her like, what? And she said, I should be able to live in America for free.
Okay.
And
Joker
then now,
bias.
yeah, and then now, I told BGS this. I found out that from a recent study, I couldn't really find hardcore numbers from any coffee shops or Starbucks or anything like that. But from a recent study I saw, it says that millennials spend about two to 3,500 in coffee in a year, versus other people that spend about $500 a year in coffee.
Where did you find that at?
I could show it to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That's interesting. Because I've definitely never bought coffee. Makes me shit, but.
Well, I would hate to see the energy drink. What their numbers say.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do buy energy drinks. That's just the truth. We love our Red Bull and Monster. That is true.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think we're more caffeine junkies than our parents are. To be honest with you.
I think that's true. Yeah.
But no, like I said, when I try to help even my niece and nephew, like I said, I got an extra car out there for my nephew. He doesn't want to do the work to get his license, and this is where I say, like, maybe I think he's like 24 or 25.
Oh come on.
He has a little moped. He's happy with that. He doesn't have his high school diploma. He doesn't have his GED. He's just working and stays in the hotel.
Wow. Okay.
Doesn't want to better himself. My niece is the same way. That's why I say, like, for me, it's just like when I look at the people that I manage, because they are 30 right now. When I managed them, they were still in high school. So when I looked at them now, it's just like what I see them doing. It's just like I don't get it. I really don't. Because
I mean, they're. I think that they're like we've talked about this before. And BGS is me and him are in agreement here. There are a lot of things that happen in relation to a lot of millennials. Not me necessarily, not me as an individual, but just as a group. That stunted our growth as people. And I don't think that's something that we cause. I don't think so. Can you say that we have carried it on in our lives to some extent? Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of millennials who aren't up to par. That much is true. That's why I say there's half an argument to be made about things that are going on with the millennial generation. That is, there are some truths to be found there because we can all point to personal experiences and even anecdotal accounts of millennials in our lives that, don't live up to our expectations. Undoubtedly true. And I think that as a group, we're definitely worse off than any other generation prior to us. But that's not, none of that is necessarily due to our action or inaction. A lot of the things that I mean, I guess it depends on how it's mostly to some extent a philosophical thing, but also it's also due to policy as well as changes in the American socialization and landscape, which is out of, I think the millennial generation's hands, because I don't think any of you guys agreed to 9/11 happening and what we did after that, did you? You know what I mean? So, I mean, even the things that we talked about. I don't think any of the millennials were involved heavily in the crash of 2008. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but this is what I'm also saying too is that every generation has its issues that they're gonna have to come out of. Every generation had their own issues that they had to come out of. Some are going to come out of it okay. Some are going to come out of it not okay. The question is how many. You can't. Yeah, we couldn't foretell, or we had no inclination of what was going on back in 2008 because we were still trying to grow ourselves, or we were still in school.
We weren't thinking about them.
No, it was the simple fact that we were not in positions to make those decisions that caused it to happen.
Right.
I understand that, but you ever hear the expression? It's not about you getting knocked down; it's how many times you get back up. You got to have that grit. Even now with the military, I think they were talking about this last night on Char Willie's channel, where they're talking about how the United States military has to deal with these softer men because these men don't have the grit to do the work. They even have this problem in China at the moment where these guys that's coming into the military, they can't go through basic training.
Yeah, little wet meats. That's what they call them.
Yeah.
Or some shit like that.
I didn't know that, but that's kind of funny. But
yeah, it is.
But it's just that I don't see people having that grit. Like for me, I've always said I can't expect my parents. Me personally, I cannot expect them to teach me something they don't know. My parents didn't know nothing about credit. I knew about credit. I knew it was important. So what did I do? I went on to YouTube when YouTube was fresh and young, and I had these people talk about credit to me. This is when I found out about a secure credit card. This is how I learned how to budget myself, and so that way, because I knew I wasn't making enough money. So I was the type of guy, since I was loving spreadsheet. I got spreadsheet. I typed in, I made all the formulas so that way when I type in my check, it would break it down, itemize it to the point where I knew I could spend this much money on food this week, this much on entertainment, this much, and I followed that to a T. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to do that because that's fucking ridiculous what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's making forth the effort so that way you can get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah. Can I speak on this for a minute? Here's
Go ahead.
part of the thing, because I know where you're getting at. You have to go find it out for yourself. Here's what I can understand: some of the angst with some of the brothers in their 30s with boomers, because don't get it twisted. You do need to do your own research and stuff yourself. But I do understand some of the angst, because sometimes boomers act like they know everything. I'm not talking about BGS or anything, but sometimes boomers have this attitude they know everything when they truly don't know shit about what you're asking them about, and they want and they give you and they want you to stick with their outdated advice when you really need to do your own research, figure out the problem for yourself. And that's why some of these dudes have the angst they do with boomers.
Well, that's why I say just eat the meat and spit the bones. Yeah, I mean, because they can only tell. It's the same thing with the what Alan Roger Curry said about his mother, right? Alan Roger Curry said about his mother is that she tried to give him 1950s dating advice in a 2000 era. 1950 dating advice is not going to work in the year two or
sure
whatever,
ain't.
1980s, whatever it was. So you're gonna have to take what she has and form it into the way to where it can work in the 2000. You just got to take the bits that could work. You got to you still got to figure out and do trial and error yourself. You still got to put in work. You just can't take what they say and just go with it. You're gonna have to okay, this worked in 1950, but what can I take from what she said? Because some of it is true. What can I take from it so that way I can, do the things I need to do in my era? Like a lot of the dating advice or advice that my parents have given me, I knew some of it wouldn't work, but some of it did, and so I just took what would work, and then whatever didn't work, I would try to figure out a way how to implement it into today's society.
Well, I think a very legitimate gripe that millennials do have with past generations is in relation to exactly what we're talking about, which is education and how that's supposed to be the key to a better and brighter future. When obviously that isn't the case now, when we see that millennials are supposedly the most educated, not necessarily working in their fields and not necessarily making the same incomes that their parents and generations prior to them did, as well as even now at this point having I think it's like 3 to 5% of the entirety of the wealth. When at the same period of time, Gen Xers had 20% of the wealth by this age, and prior to them, and the boomer generation at this age, they had, I think, almost 40% of the nation's wealth. Yet somehow millennials only have 3 to 5%. We act like this is by accident. It's not. And we all levy the same claim at millennials as if it has something to do with grit, and that isn't the case. There's a much deeper economic situation that's been going on in this country for many years that we have essentially ignored. And when 2008 happened, we started to pay attention to it for a moment, but we then shifted it back to the back of our minds and went back to focusing on bootstraps, because that's what we were all indoctrinated to believe, that this is
it's called piss on you economics.
Okay.
I know I know it's called trickle down, but I call it piss on you economics because that's what it is.
Okay, so I'm just found this really because I know I saw this before because it says something about older millennials, 35 and up, catching up to the older past generations now. It says, well, I'll show it. I'll make sure it's large. Can y'all see that or no?
Yeah, I can see it.
I'll make it a little bit larger. Go away. I don't like you. Damn. It says millennials are finally catching up. Prior to the pandemic, older millennials are making strides and catching up to other generations' wealth benchmarks. likely thanks to the trends of a long-lasting running bull market, low unemployment rates, and increased home ownership. In fact, 59% of those born between 1981 and 1988 are homeowners. So, a recent survey conducted by the Harris Poll on behalf of CNBC make it found as 2019, the average millennial is now 34. It has a median net worth of $51,400. That's just $6,400 off from what Economics and Project has been born in the 1980s. So, I mean, if you're now 34 and has a median net worth of $51,400, that ain't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess, I guess, but I mean, you gotta understand, this is kind of lazy. It's a crack at, and this is a CNBC article, but I'm not going to go into them. But you gotta
I mean,
understand,
there's
like,
other articles. This is the first one I found, but I can find more.
no, I understand these. It's a popular idea that somehow things don't cost more now as opposed to in the past, which just isn't the case. Okay, like if you buy something today, the value of what you got today isn't the same as the value as what you got back in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't the same as what you got in 1990. For instance, a gallon of gas today is what? I think I actually just came from the gas station.
About $3 or more.
Yeah, it's damn near $3 and change, and we're not even talking about during the 2008 2009 recessions and after that, you know what I'm saying, because
Mm-hmm.
gas prices were nuts.
Yeah.
And so these things cost more today. So the money that they have earned today, they're comparing it dollar for dollar. They're not actually doing
Yeah, that's one of my problems.
they're not doing any inflationary comparison in that particular article, and they don't, and they know why they're not. It's disingenuous at best. Anybody that knows that anything, like if you not anything, but if you know a bit about economics, you can't just go dollar for dollar and say that they have the same buying power, because they
Yeah,
don't.
that's my biggest gripe with some of the boomers now. They because like how the real minimum wage of the United States is $7.25 an hour. I call it a joke wage, but you know what some boomers like, back in my day, it was such and such and such and such an hour. Like, yeah, but the cost of living was way lower.
When have we? I've never got paid $7.25 an hour.
I have.
I've never got paid $7.25 an hour.
I've been there. It's not a good time.
Yeah, but that's when you first started off. I would if you are a 45-year-old man accepting $7.25 an hour, there's something wrong.
I agree.
If you're 25-year-old, if you accepting $7.25, there's something wrong. That's why I don't like making that comparison about the minimum wage, because there's not too many jobs that's going to pay you minimum wage. I didn't get paid minimum wage when I was working at Walmart.
Well, like I said, we're actually getting. I mean, that was kind of an aside. We get away from the actual issue here, because there's no inflationary adjustment in that argument.
But the thing,
there's none. It's not accounted for.
But the thing is, to make the argument of minimum wage, when in fact a lot of jobs are not paying you minimum wage.
That's a different argument.
But
I think a lot of jobs do actually still pay minimum wage. Depends on where you live. For instance, like I know a lot of places in the South that still do minimum wage. I don't know. I'm not in Georgia right now. I know things may have changed.
I don't know. I don't know any factory work or even working at fucking Target that I can go to right now and they'll pay me minimum wage.
Yeah, it's $7.25.
They're paying. You can go work at like a Sheetz gas station and get paid $15 an hour right now in my city.
Well, that's a recent occurrence. I mean, like,
no, it's not.
Is it not?
No,
I think it depends.
Well, I mean, that's
on
still
where you
not.
live.
That's still not the argument that I was making.
So what Walmart pays somebody $7.25 an hour?
All of them down in Georgia. That's the entry level wage.
No, I would be lying if I said that. I think they pay like 8 or 9 now. I have to ask somebody.
Nah. Hold on, I gotta look this up
because when I first started working, my first job that I got hired into, I was making $7.25. My second job that I got hired into, I was making $7.25. I had to move up to management before they bumped me up by guess how much?
Average Walmart cashier sales salary pay in Georgia is approximately $11.31.
Yeah, that's recent. That's some new shit. That's some new shit. I'm just saying that's some new shit. That's new.
Yeah, last I heard they were paying $8 or $9.
And that was some new shit.
Yeah. They may have gone up since then.
No,
Because,
when I started Walmart back in 2000, was it 5? Was it 2000? Because I know it was before my mother passed. So I think it was like 2004 or 5. I got paid $10 an hour.
Yeah, you're a golden child, man. You just came out winning, bro. I don't know. I don't know. Because I mean, I don't know. Okay, my first job that I ever worked was at Taco Bell. Okay. I worked there for a year. And my second job that I ever worked was at Dollar Tree. And I worked
yeah, I
there
believe they
for
play
a year.
minimum wage. Good Lord.
And the third job I ever worked was at Target. And I made $8 an hour. That was the first time I got a boost outside of becoming management at Dollar Tree. And that was just as a regular stocker. That's I made $8 an hour. And I was working full-time hours. And then after that, that's when everything changed and I started making, actual decent money, because I, like I told you,
So
my
you're just
story is a little bit different. So
you're just stocking canned goods and stuff like that on the shelf, right?
everything, yeah. You go into Target, you'd have to, okay, so Target does things differently. Because they have set store hours. Like they're open and closed at certain times. When they're closed, they stock everything. They do everything. Everything's getting stocked. And if you're a part of the stocking crew, you're doing everything except for clothes, because clothes is mostly what the women do. All the guys, unload the truck in the morning.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
basically palletize everything out to go down specific aisles. You take carts, get the shit off the carts, bring it down to where it's supposed to go, and then you go throughout the entirety of the store and restock everything. And they do that every day. So you start off making $8 an hour when you walk in the door. Just to give you a specific time frame, I was 19 at the time that I did this. So what is 2021 now? What's the math on that? 2021, I was 19 at the time. I'm 28 now. Can somebody do the math on that? Because my math is not good.
What you say? Because I was looking at stuff.
It's 2021 now. I was 19 at the time that I was stocking at Target. And I'm 28 years old now.
About 10 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
about
10 years ago.
About 9 years.
Yeah.
So that's I was getting paid $8 an hour, 9 years ago. And that's the minimum wage is $7.25, and I started off making minimum wage. So I mean,
I thought you said you started off making 8.
No, my first job was at Taco Bell. Fucking,
Oh yeah, I mean, restaurant, if you
the
first start
restaurant
off,
minimum wage is even worse, but go ahead.
Yeah.
well, that
and then
depends.
I moved into
That depends if you are a waiter or a waitress. Then you'll probably get paid like less than that, but your tips are supposed to make up for it. That's and if your tips don't make up for it, they're supposed to be paying you more.
No, they don't. Well, I had a girlfriend.
That's what they're supposed. That's what they're supposed to do, because they can get into some legal trouble. Because I know a guy.
Come on, they don't be doing what they're supposed to do.
I put it to you like this: since I've been in the management, I'll tell you what happened to somebody who didn't. The state government came into there and fined them $10,000 for each infraction that they got, and that guy got fired.
I bet he did.
I mean,
so they fined that company $10,000 for each infraction that they did not do what they were supposed to do.
but not. I'm glad North Carolina operates like that, but not every state operates like that. I've
They're
heard
supposed to.
before.
That's OSHA laws, man. that's you dealing with OSHA.
Yeah. You have to, well, number one, you have to assume that your labor force is educated enough to even understand what the OSHA laws are. Step one. And a lot of times, these people working in these lower paid jobs don't actually, number one, have the resources, informations, intelligence to even actually take advantage of that. That's why these things generally don't go reported. They don't. I had an ex-girlfriend at the time who actually was in that situation, that exact situation. You know, you don't make tips for the night. Guess what? Get fucked. You didn't
Well,
take your 525 or whatever the fuck it is. I don't
well,
remember.
guess what?
You
Is that
know,
the job? Is
you
that
beat it.
is that the job's fault they got away with it, or is that her fault she got away with it?
It's both.
No, it's hers. You have to fight for your rights, man.
Well, I mean, I guess
if your job is not doing you right and stealing money from you, fuck them.
I agree. Fuck them. But the
I
thing
do
is
agree with
that
that. Yeah, take them to court, do whatever you have to do, but not everybody has the information to do that.
It's the jobs.
That's what bugs me the fuck out when people say that shit. Like, you think people can just do whatever they want to with you. Like, you are a citizen. You have laws. I don't know anybody who knows that your job can take money out of you and think that that's okay. Then there's nothing you can do about that. I don't know anybody who thinks like that. I don't.
Well, you have to know first. You have to know.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's not always the situation.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab a drink.
What people think? What people just let people get away with something and think that that's okay? I don't. That boggles my mind that people actually think that's okay. That people that don't know their OSHA laws. No, don't know that you're supposed to be able to have a break when you work. You're not supposed to work. You're not supposed to work a full 8 hours.
What's the name of that company? It's one of the chip makers. I can't think of the name of it right now. Fritos. Look what's happening with them. You think if they were working them, they were not falling. Okay.
And that's why people have to, and that's why you have these strikes, because they were not being done right.
But
that's one of the main reasons why some of these people don't want unions enter their jobs, because the unions will make sure that these guys are supposed to be doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, supposedly. We've had labor strikes when it comes to Ford and them not doing the right thing or all that stuff.
I actually forgot what I wanted to say. You guys went too hard.
Look, I understand what you're saying. You're saying people should know the OSHA laws, but that's not always the case. I know.
But that ignorance is no excuse.
It is an excuse.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's not.
It is.
Tell that to a judge when he's trying to put you away for a couple of years.
Well, no, the judge doesn't put you away if you're the one that got taken advantage of. The thing is, the judge actually recognized that it's not individually that one person's fault. It's not. And they even recognize this. That's why they actually go against the company that did this, and they issue damages to the company. That's why they get penalized in the first place. That's why they don't say, well, it's your fault. The judge doesn't say that. They say, hey, it's your fault. The judge says, hey, guess what? You fucked this employee. Hey, guess what? We're going to fuck you now because you fucked this employee, and you shouldn't be fucking people. We told you not to fuck people, and here you are. We caught you fucking people.
But when you're in front of a judge, that means you're taking up for yourself.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, to a certain extent, these people also get caught because they have their own, sometimes, this doesn't happen often, but sometimes they get caught by third parties. Sometimes they get caught by internal parties. You know, they get caught on multiple levels. It isn't just a one-person thing. That's why I say it's not necessarily only that employee, that individual's fault. It's you see these things. We like to think of these things individually because, like I said, a lot of people were indoctrinated. You guys got this weird belief that it all falls on the individual. It's personal responsibility, and it's not. It's a web. We're interconnected, okay? So when they fuck you, they have responsibility to it as well. I know this might be crazy, but they do. It's their fault too. They fucked up too.
They can only get away with it if you allow them to. People can do whatever they want, but it's up to you to hold them accountable. It's on you. It's not up to the company to hold themselves accountable. If the company wants to fuck you over, they will. Who's going to hold them accountable? It has to be the employer. I mean, the employee.
I agree to that.
They say that, hey, you did not pay me what you owe me.
Mm-hmm.
Give me my fucking money. And the company says no. Guess what? There's extra steps that I have to take. There was a company that tried to dock my pay over something I did not do. Guess what I did? I called up to my labor board and told them what happened, gave them the information, and when they went in there, guess what? Within a year, nobody in that fucking building was the same. They didn't get away with that shit. Because I did not allow that. I could have allowed them to take my money and kept my head down and just said, fuck it. He just took $30 out of my check. Or I could have made an example out of his ass, which I did. He did not have his fucking job. This is stuff that I've done.
Yeah, you did the right thing.
Did the right thing.
No one's blaming you or any other person as an individual for these things.
We're trying to get you to see, artists, it's not always that simple. Especially when lawyers get, especially when you got to think sometimes, especially when some of these big companies get their lawyers involved, and they're throwing all kind of bullshit at the employee to make him not take him to court and stuff.
Well, guess what? This is the reason why you have folders. Do you keep any of your paychecks?
I keep all my paychecks.
Mm-hmm. You keep all of your taxes. You keep those in a folder.
I got the last 3 years, and then I got
the last.
Once 10. I get to 4, I dump the fourth one out.
I got the last 10. So if anything happens to where money is taken out or stuff like that, I look at all my paychecks. I look at all my bank statements. I keep all that shit. Why? Because if anything happens that I need to go ahead and sue my company on, I can go back into the records and say, this is all the records that I have that my company gave me. This is all the pamphlets that they gave me. This is all everything I have. So guess what? We can go back and look through all my information that I have because it's my responsibility to keep up with that stuff. It's not my job. It's my responsibility because if anything happens, they can say, oh, well, we don't have it. Or we don't know where it's at. Guess what? I got it, motherfucker. Here it is right here. Do something about it.
I mean, I don't understand. We actually don't agree. We actually the thing is that you see half of the argument and we see what we're saying to you is we see both sides of the argument because there's validity to both sides of that argument. There is. It's not an either or, it's both. You want it to be either or. And it's not. It's both. Both parties are liable. Both parties have culpability.
Yeah, I do agree. You should keep track of your records. I gotta say for that too.
I mean, it's like saying that just because a company doesn't get caught for something, for instance, like with what's going on right now with what's the name of that big ass company? The one with the GME scandal, the GameStop scandal. Not Robinhood, but the parent company. It's like saying, I can't remember the name, but it's like saying that they don't have any liability because nobody told on them. However, the government was watching that and they knew before the people even told on them, even though that people filed complaints about it, that they wouldn't have been liable. They are both liable. They both knew what the fuck was going on, and so all parties, have some stake in that. It's not an either or sort of type of situation. I mean, would it have been noticed if people weren't watching? Probably so. It wouldn't have been noticed, and nobody would have cared. But to some extent, you're right in the argument that people did watch and took note and documented and called the necessary parties to get it handled. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the company absolves all liability of that. They don't. They get called to accountability. They have to take responsibility for what they did wrong. They have to.
You can only be held accountable if someone holds you accountable. Until then, you could do whatever the fuck you want. It's only when the authorities come in and hold you accountable for it. A kid can drink. You can tell your kid don't drink the chocolate milk, and your kid will drink chocolate milk for the entire week. But until you put discipline to that child, he's gonna get away with drinking chocolate milk. That's what these companies are doing. They're betting on the fact that you are not going to go to the authorities.
No, they're taking advantage of the situation. This is that they understand that people are, like I said earlier, ignorant or uneducated or don't have the
want to deal with the
ability.
system either.
Yeah, don't have the ability or may not have the necessary finances to assume the risk of attacking them. They're not stupid. These companies aren't that dumb. They're dumb, but they're not that dumb. So they take advantage of the situation. They're capitalists. They capitalize off of the situation. That's what they do. They know what they're doing. That's why these people don't necessarily always attack the companies responsible. This isn't so simple. Where it's just
Also,
personal
you gotta
responsibility, and bootstraps. It's just not that simple.
Also, have you heard about what? I'll give you the example of what. What's the name of that sandwich company? I can't think of the name of it. JJ something. I can't think of the name of it, but they're all their employees sign a contract. Once they leave their company, they cannot. It's a sandwich place. Jimmy John's is the name of it. I don't know if they have any in your state, but they have a contract. They cannot reveal what Jimmy John's do. Some of these companies have contract. You sign a contract, you can't reveal their secrets or recipes to another company.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
That's confidentiality.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you tell the secret to my recipe that makes me millions of dollars to someone else who's a competitor of mine, yeah, I should have the right to sue you. Yeah, the company has every single right to sue you at that point because you're telling industry secrets. You're trying to destroy me. That's them taking accountability for their company. Just like I'm saying.
Aquatech, you said it. Yep. Non-disclosure agreements. Yep.
Non-disclosure.
Yep.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, these companies can only get away with stuff if you allow them to. And if people are not willing to stand up for their rights, then guess what? Things are not going to change. If you're still staying at a job that's docking your money, docking $100 at your check every day, and you stay there, you accepted the fact that they're going to dock $100 at your check every single week.
Well, it's an advanced cost benefit analysis, that people do. I mean, you got a lot, like I said, I'm just going to leave it off with this so that we can move forward. This is a complicated issue. It isn't so simple as individuals have to take on the personal accountability of being sued. Otherwise we wouldn't have things like when you go in and you sue people as a group. We wouldn't have class action lawsuits. We wouldn't have that. It wouldn't exist. These things aren't so simple. You got to understand there are even companies. I think that there was a big stink I think it was like 3-4 years ago, where a bunch of companies were actually essentially forcing people to go into arbitration, where you can't actually take them to court. You have to arbitrate in their own company court, so to speak. where the company investigates themselves, so, just like with the cops. So I mean, it's the same thing. Companies do that as well to cover their own ass. So I mean, this isn't so simple anymore. Never, it really never was, but it's not so simple anymore now. Because I mean, unions don't even really exist in the South, for instance. There's a
Oh
reason
yeah,
for
these
that.
right to work states like Indiana.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
because
you can't make the case that it all falls on the individual, because they have protections like all these government corporation or government entities that are going to come protect them. And it just isn't that simple.
So who holds the company accountable?
Well, I mean, at this point, the only people that can hold the company accountable is the government and the courts. That's about it. But
How?
I mean,
But
you have to be able to, like I said, this isn't simple. I mean, you want to boil it down. The person, me or you or AB, are the only people responsible for that situation,
I'm
and
not.
it
I'm
isn't
not.
that simple.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you have labor laws, the government is not looking at every company and say, okay, we're gonna look at this company, see if they broke any labor laws. Someone has to go to them and let them know that this company is breaking labor laws. The government is not gonna be looking into every single entity, every single business across America to know if they are breaking labor laws. Someone has to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
When has the government ever looked into labor laws without nobody telling them at all?
Sure, it's happened, but I don't know.
I don't know any. Someone in chat, please tell me of a company that's been investigated that no one told them that they broke labor laws. I would want to know. I will read that tonight. Someone has to tell the government that they are doing something. That's holding them accountable. If no one says anything, nothing gets done. If you're locking employees up in the building and no one tells anybody, no one tells the fire department, no one tells the police, no one tells the governor, no one tells the FBI, no one tells anything, guess what? It's going to happen again tomorrow because they got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I guess you have a firm stance in personal accountability here. I can't change your view, it seems like. So I don't know.
Let's move on.
Except for to say that unfortunately I don't think that we're going to come to any sort of agreement here on this. I don't think so. I think this is a complicated issue, and unfortunately it doesn't fall on the individual anymore. It's not that simple anymore. I wish it were, but it's not.
Yeah, I do too. Believe me.
I don't see it that way, but okay, go ahead. What other issues that you have with boomers at that point?
AB?
I can't think of any right now.
Well, I mean, I guess most of my issues have already been laid out, but I just think that as you, let's see, let's go down the list of issues that boomers have with millennials, because let's be honest here, most of millennials' issues are almost a defense and always have been a defense against their attacks, and the attacks are constant. So I mean, we'd have to run down the list of the issues that they take with millennials and go from there, because most of the issues that they take with millennials can actually be rationally explained, and they don't actually like anything. They don't like rational explanations. They kind of like in general, most of their arguments come down to they boil down to laziness or inadequacy, and it's kind of it's a double-sided sword or a circular firing squad where it's like they shoot the millennials, but they shoot themselves because they actually played the biggest part in raising millennials, in my view, because a lot of Xers weren't actually involved in the raising of their own children, but nobody wants to talk about that. So I mean, it's kind of funny that a lot of the gripes that they have with millennials as an individual group is due to their own missteps or steps in the raising of children,
That's
or even in their missteps or steps with being involved with the educational system. So if we want to talk about personal accountability, like we did earlier, where were they when all these issues were coming down? Not them as individuals, but them as a group, when these issues were coming through the education system, when these changes were happening in the economy, when it came to setting their children up properly for the future, instead of just telling your children to go out and get an education and come out into the workforce and get blindsided by unexpected consequences. These things aren't necessarily talked about when boomers are brought up. But I mean, I think that
now.
it's fair to lay the claim at their feet and just say, well, I mean, who am I? Who are we to blame, honestly, for millennials' lack of any sort of accomplishment? Them as individuals, or the parents and the education system who raised them? Because I mean, I guess you could say at a certain point you're supposed to grow up and become an adult, which is true. However, all that stems from somewhere else. An inadequate adult was an inadequate child. And it's just that simple. But nobody wants to say that.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I could confirm this because I've talked to my parents about this. Some of them did try to fight some of the bullshit that's in the school system now, but there wasn't enough of them, and they weren't successful.
I would say when it comes to, like I said, what I saw parents try, some of them, but I think the problem is that since there were a lot of more single mothers, like I said, when I came to Raleigh, I saw a lot of single mothers homes. I never, and I've said this to UPK, like, I mean, and I know my situation is completely different because
Both of us are, yeah.
Because most of my parents that was or kids who had parents had both parents in the household. Like I think like about 90% of the kids in my high school had 2-parent household. So me seeing the younger millennials growing up and them being at a single parent households, I see them struggling more than so I will see the 2 parents. I think the 2-parent households, I see more people, doing what they need to do. But it's just that those single parent households where kids were pretty much left to their own devices. Because one of my exes was a substitute teacher at one point. And she was saying that how the school system that she was at, there was only one stationary teacher at. One teacher for the whole entire year that stayed. The rest of them was subs down a whole hall of high school kids. Why are not the parents at the school board talking about that?
They were at work.
Yeah.
Most likely.
But even still, that should have been an issue, especially if you're talking about your kids being educated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was 2013. These kids are adults at this point. So we there is a point where, like Art Stahl said, he has this problem too, where you have a whole bunch of parents that just don't come to these school board meetings.
Oh, it's worse than that. But keep going. Now, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if your whole hall does not even have their teachers fully staffed, and your kids are not learning anything, what is your job as a parent? Just to make sure that your kids get the best education they possibly can get, that you can give them, and that way they can make it to the age of 18. That way they can be an adult.
I'll say this from my own school journey or experience. What I noticed when it came to parent-teacher conferences, if I did notice a parent at all, I actually, for the most part, in my cohort, I didn't see many parents. Um, most of the days that I saw parent teacher conferences, a lot of times, um, you could probably count on one hand or two hands how many uh how many parents were there, and I mean parents, not just one, not mom, not dad, both. Um, it was much more often or likely to see that the child and the parent were missing and didn't attend. Um, I don't know if it's always been that way, but at least in my childhood, that's what I remember and that's what I saw. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my parents were in attendance frequently, not often, but frequently. Either it was one or the other or both. But for the vast majority of these children, um, I generally saw one or none. And so that led me and still leads me to believe that many of these people didn't actually have a stable, intact family. Well, they probably had their mom or their dad or nobody at all that was raising them and paying attention to their education, um, which was reflected in the outcomes probably in their lives. I haven't kept up with them, but probably in their lives, and also to some extent in their education moving forward during the years that they were still getting it. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these students underperformed, and you know, I would say the vast majority of them didn't even have education as a primary focus in their minds, even if they did make good grades. Because some people aren't actually, I hate to say it, some people are naturally gifted at understanding concepts the first time they see it. They don't ever have to study again. You know what I mean? I was one of those kids in elementary school. You know, I see the concept once, I'm good. I don't really need to see it again. You know, it wasn't until I started to get into more advanced and adept concepts in middle school and high school because you know I skipped 2 grades, so I was 2 years younger than everybody else. That
Oh, okay.
things started to become more difficult for me. Because I just I missed out on what I was supposed to learn, but that's not school's fault. That's my parents' fault for not being able to afford to keep me in the place that I was at. But I don't blame them because they did the best that they could. But nonetheless, though, a lot of these people didn't actually have stable upbringings, I would say. Most of these people, vast majority of them, vast majority of them. So
And I can
their
see it work.
outcomes today are, I think, reflective of their home life and their educations, because a lot of what was going on in the education system and even today to some extent is mostly child rearing. There isn't much education actually happening today, and I mean that's even reflective in our budgeting system that we do with schools. You know, we don't often
Yep,
budget
it's called the school
education.
prison pipeline for a reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I mean, this is all. This is, in my view. This is just my view. This is all a consequence of policy. You know, over generations, and so in different happenings over generations that have caused children to be in school without any supervision, and so the teacher has in many respects become the parent. So that's an issue of the society.
I will say millennials were inundated and socialized to accept higher education more probably than any other group that I've seen, because they made an enormous
Oh
push
yeah.
in the government to push going to college, especially from the mid '90s all the way up to the end of the 2000s,
I
to
agree to
make
that.
sure kids go to college, and that pretty much put a lot of college kids into a lot of debt, which is not what they're supposed to do. I mean, the thing is that you're supposed to go to college when you have a plan, and a lot of kids go to college and they don't have a plan. They don't go to the guidance counselor to try to figure out like what their life plan is, so like what they need to do, what they need to take. A lot of it is just like it's just the next. I've heard it when other people talk about college, just like it's the next step. You're just supposed to go to college, and that's it. And then in college, you're supposed to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. Not college is supposed to be a step in how to advance your career. You're supposed to figure out what you're supposed to figure out what you want to do when you're in high school
before you get to college. Yes,
and then figure out the plan to implement so that way you're not wasting all this money. And some of these courses that are in college should be added at community college, because there's no way that you should be getting $300,000 in debt, and you're just like a teacher. Like, why did you pick that school to go to college to be a teacher making $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year? That's not smart.
It ain't.
Yeah, but hindsight's also 2020, and we're just now figuring this stuff out. Too, this wasn't talk. This wasn't. Be honest, this stuff wasn't really talked about 10 years ago.
Wasn't talked about. It wasn't taught. It wasn't even taught by parents. So I mean, when you don't look, when you don't teach, children about economics or about life planning, what the fuck do you expect to happen? I mean, like, this isn't rocket science. It's not.
Well, that's why you're supposed to go to your guidance counselor. I was always taught that kids go to your guidance counselor so that way you can figure out what you go to college.
Yeah, the guidance. I'll tell you what the guidance counselor says. What college do you want to go to? What college do you want to go to? You should go to college, otherwise you'll be a bum. And that was about it. I mean,
yeah,
the guidance counselor isn't actually guiding you on what exactly steps you need to, what steps, roadblocks, and economic consequences you need to be thinking about and talking about. They don't do that. That's not what's happening.
What you're saying, but not all guidance counselors are created equal. I'm just saying.
I understand that, but that's why parents need, in my opinion, parents need to start taking a more proactive role in their kids' lives, and especially when they're in their adolescent age. When it comes to guidance counselors, colleges, looking at all this stuff instead of just sending their kids off, because that's the main. This is one of the reasons why men now are not going to college anymore, because it's not financially worth it. They were talking about this I think last week or this week before, that a lot of parents, especially in the white community, are not sending their boys to college because they don't think it's worth it. They actually said this on the live stream. They just said, I'm not sending my children to college, especially my boys, because it's not worth it. And now you got articles saying boys are not going into college.
This isn't. Mm-hmm.
As far as that goes, it depends on the field. But go ahead, PK.
Yeah, I don't really think this is, this is not, for me, this isn't something that's surprising. It's actually still going on today, which is why I take major issue with people who push children towards college without any clear vision as to what it is they want to do or need to do, because those two things aren't necessarily even the same. Because when you go to college, for instance, if you're a poor person, you probably shouldn't be going to college for some sort of, what do you call it? MBA. You should probably be going to college for something that's going to make you money or start a business. You know what I mean? So we're actually making a huge mistake with education for the sake of education while driving up the debt. But we do that for economic reason, because not only are our colleges for profit, they're taking advantage of the economic system that we currently have installed. You know what I mean? Because this is a debt-based system. And they want you to go into debt because it builds more money for the economy. That's the reason that we have it running this way. It's not by accident that these things happen. And the way that they take advantage of this situation is because these children don't have proper guidance. They're not receiving proper guidance from the parents. They're not receiving proper guidance from the guidance counselor. And we don't teach them economics, which is we then look at the consequences of this and we say, what happened? Well, here's what happened. They didn't learn any of these things, and you expect them to get out into the real world and just figure it out. You can't build a plane while you're flying it and expect for everything to go well. Like you're gonna have turbulence, and that bitch ain't always gonna work.
Gonna
It's
have bumps in
gonna
the road.
happen. Yeah. I mean, it's to be expected. This is the outcome based on what you put in. This is the input. Here's the outcome. You know.
The major problem that I saw with college is the implementation that the government gave out loans. The federal government gave out loans. When the federal government gave out loans, I think that was the major catalyst that caused all this issue where you had all these federal college loans out and people got these federal college loans, and that was one of the last major problems that the government did. I understand they wanted people to go to college, but the main thing is about college is that you have to plan for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a C student and go to college. The only people that should go to college are people that got A's. You would have to be an A student in high school. You go to college. If you're a B minus, or go to community college. If you're a C student, go get your regular job. Is what it is. But you got C students going to college, racking up debt, and they still have a C work ethic. It don't work. Sorry, it don't.
I think if we had built a society that could maintain C students going to college, then yes, obviously you would want to raise the education level of your populace. That would make sense. However,
Mm.
this country doesn't function that way, and
It
it
does
never
not.
has. And so we've actually set up our own our own downfall by sending children, in my view, by sending children to school without any sorts of plans, without any sort of insight, knowledge, or prior education as to what college is for. And we've also even made courses in colleges more accessible to the point where people can go to college without understanding the ramifications of the decisions, economically, long-term outcomes in relation to it. So I mean, it's it's a problem. It has been a problem, but I mean, people are still pushing it as if that's the way to go, and that's the only way to go to find any sort of success. And to some extent, that's true. But there are consequences to this. You're gonna
Yes.
have a lot. You're gonna have a lot of fallout, and when you see dead bodies, dropping out of this plane, or bodies dropping out of this plane that we're flying, that we're trying to build, don't be surprised by that. And don't be surprised that you're going to get people that are C and D students going to college and becoming, baristas at Starbucks. Don't be surprised by that. You signed up for this, and you enabled it and empowered it, and think and still to some extent think that it's right. So what are you going to do? I mean, we can see. I mean, just I complain about it. We all complain about it, but ultimately, that's what the society pushes, and that's what people push, because education is obviously the way to a brighter future, right? But it depends on what, and nobody wants to get to the what. We talk around it. We, so
Well, I'm not gonna do too much pushback on that because I mean I could, but I'm not. But because I do want to go ahead and open this up for everybody. It's been 2 hours already. This is gonna be the last question before I open it up for everybody else to come on if they want to come
Okay.
on. What are millennials leaving to Z's?
that's a good question. 5%
Good.
of the nation's wealth. Memes. Um,
Unfortunately, Black Lives
YOLO.
Matter.
YOLO, Black Lives Matter.
Oh gosh.
Uh,
Yeah, we're just gonna have to hold the L on that one. I'm sorry, but
I mean,
But do Z's have the right to say okay millennials to you guys, to us?
yeah,
If you're saying that that's what we're leaving them, then
yeah. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the world is only, at least as far as I can tell, it's only on a downhill spiral. So, I mean, what can we really leave them that will be better? I mean, they're us and them are the two first generations to be in a worse off position. than all prior generations. So I mean, what are we supposed to leave them in all actuality?
Well, like I said, I still have a car out here for my nephew. I am teaching people. I taught the people that was underneath me about credit and how to use credit, how you to use credit cards and stuff like that. I'm teaching them all the stuff that that I've learned over my years, all the mistakes that I've made, and give them my knowledge that I have.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now. My younger cousins and stuff, like, look, learn from my mistakes and try to do better.
Then when they don't do it, then I'll be like my boomers who are like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're fucking up." And they're like, "Okay, millennial." Like, okay.
Well, let them be like that. They'll learn.
Well, that's what boomers said to us, right?
Yeah,
I'll take that criticism because that's what I tell you. They don't want to listen. Like, okay, you're gonna learn. Sometimes you got to step back and let them learn.
But that goes back to the point where I'm saying this is just every generation is going to hate the previous one that came after it because they feel like the other generation ain't doing shit. It is what it is. This is a new way of life, new generation of people. A lot of things that I see now is going on is still the same crap that I saw going on back in the 60s. Same thing. So to me, it's just like, we hate them. Each generation hates on the other. Gen X hates silence, and boomers and millennials hate boomers, and maybe some Xers, but I don't think a lot of Xers had a lot of millennials. A lot of Xers probably had Zs. So you're gonna have the Z's gonna hate boomers and Gen X and millennials. What it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody hates everybody.
I mean, I figure it this way: if the Z's have any smoke for the millennials can really just throw up their hands and say, "Well, what do you want us to do? What do you want? Like, what do you expect?"
Well, you said, the boomers were supposed to leave us something.
Yeah, I mean, no,
but if they said you millennials or Gen X were supposed to leave us something, why didn't you make the world better?
Well, I mean, we got to keep going up the chain. What do you want? What do you want? We go up the chain and we find that there are issues up the chain. If you don't understand, you don't understand. It is what it is. I think the difference in between the millennials as a group versus the prior generations is the fact that we actually haven't taken any active stabs at the Gen Z. We haven't done that yet. Could it be coming? Maybe. But I don't think by and large our group has actually taken any active
and I don't want
attack against them. So I
mean, have they made a mistake? Sure, but have they made a mistake? Sure, but I don't. I want to let them grow.
Oh, they coming. They coming. They getting into the workforce now, so they making their voice now. Like I said, I think from what I've been seeing, yeah. So the panel is now open for everybody. Anybody can get in. We're gonna only go for one more hour because I got to do some stuff before I do my live stream tonight. So you ain't gonna have me here all fucking day now.
Yeah, I gotta go back to the store. I didn't get everything I needed.
Well, all right, so I got 34 people in here watching. So you guys need to hit the link, and you got 5 minutes to hit the link, or else I'm going to shut this down. If y'all want to come up.
So what did you have to criticize me about earlier about what I said? If you remember.
Go repeat it again.
You said that you had pushed back for something that I said earlier, and that you could push back against it, but you're not going to.
I just said go ahead and say what you said, or you don't remember.
I don't remember, dude. Like, it was 5 minutes ago, dude. You think I remember, dude? Like, I got short memory, dude. Like,
oh boy,
I got short-term memory loss. Like, hold on,
let me listen to it.
I was talking about building the plane as you fly, and
yeah,
people falling out the back of it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, that's
people
what
are
software.
surprised by the outcomes.
Believe it or not, that's what software development is like.
I mean,
Makes sense.
this is how I've always looked at life, and this is why I say I'm a bit different because I'm older than you guys, well, at least older than UPK, and I look at it like this. My parents' obligation to me was from the age of 0 to 18. After that, I'm on my own. And whatever faults or issues that I had to deal with, I had to learn how to navigate. Now, I could have gone back to my father for advice or ask other people. I have. When I had to learn how to budget, I learned how to do that. When I had to learn about credit, I couldn't ask my dad about it because he didn't know nothing about credit that could help me. So what I did was I found that information out on my own. I took forth the effort because that was something that I wanted to learn. I took the experiences that I had from each and every job that I had, and I'm trying to make my life a little bit better as I could. Now, I don't expect to buy a house off, doing low labor jobs, but I do understand that, somebody has to start somewhere. And where you start is, probably going to be at the bottom. And with me starting at the bottom, I understand that. But as time grew on, I expected myself to get better, and which I have, and which I'm thankful for, and I'm blessed. So I do believe that, it is up to the parents to teach the kids. But there comes a time at some point when you're an adult where you're going to start taking life into your own hands. Now, you are throwing curveballs, but it depends on how you handle those curveballs.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily disagree with that. I think that we agree to some extent. It isn't that I'm saying that once a person becomes an adult that they don't hold any personal responsibility whatsoever. But what I am saying though is that when you have bad input, you get bad output. By and large, the people who do better than the bad input are exceptions. They are not the rule. That's all I'm saying.
Crap
It's
in,
really
crap out.
simple. Right. So whatever you put in is what you can expect to get out. If you get something different out, that's called an exception. That is not the rule. Okay. So by and large, people in your position, because I've known a couple of them, for instance, I got a guy or a cousin of mine, I just call him a guy, cousin of mine right now who just got out of jail recently for the third time for consistently doing crime, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. And his life is very similar to yours, and therefore he didn't see a way forward, and he decided, yo, dog, time to do crime. Right. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't even necessarily disagree with that. To some extent, that is true. I agree with that to some extent. However, I just don't, it does not surprise me when you're building a plane while you're flying it that people are going to fall out that bitch. And people, parts aren't necessarily going to be right the first time you put it on because you're learning. I mean, what do you expect?
But this is the point to that whole guy who saw no outs and just decided to sell drugs. Did he know the consequences of his actions? Like, if the guy was going to sell drugs and he's going to tell the judge, like, I didn't know the consequences of selling drugs, you're a dumbass. And because everybody knows there's consequences for every action. You went into jail 3 times. There's going to be consequences for that. You fucked up 3 times. You're not going to have a good life if you went to jail 3 times. People are not going to trust you. We had a guy at Walmart who had a record. They hired him. He was employee of the month. Next day, they found out he had a record. He got fired. Did I agree with it? No. But just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that stuff does not happen. I understand stuff like that happens because of what is going on when it comes to jobs. Now, the only way I can change that is I make my own job and start hiring him. People like that. Which there are jobs that he can go into because he has a record. Like trucking. I mean, we talked about this too, PK. If you have a record, there's a good chance you can be in the trucking. You have to make your own way. Or you may have to actually own your own business. Start somewhere. But the thing is that if you want to go back into the life of criminality, then you have to accept the consequences of that. And the consequences of that is getting arrested again. And thank you, Mr. Meach, for the $1.99. I know I'm not gonna be here all day. Might be here all night, but not all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we agree on that point. I don't know if you agree on the points that I made, though. I don't know. What are your thoughts about what I initially said? You know, bad input, bad output. What do you think about that? Do you see any correlation there?
I mean, I'll get you in next, Bruce.
Well, Arson was up first before me, so I mean, I just wanted to yeah. Go ahead.
Well, he ain't unmuted himself yet, so
I'm listening.
We just listening
What's
to
up,
chop
y'all?
back the bits, man. We gonna fall back and wait for you to establish the order, the lineup. You know, go ahead.
Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a critic. Anyway,
Waiting for my on ramp to get onto the freeway. Y'all moving pretty fast. I'm gonna let y'all rock out till I find a good place to jump in. Double dutch, man. Double dutch.
I put it to you like this: it's the same way. It's the same thing with guys dealing with women, right? You get a lot of bad input from your parents about how you should treat women and all this other stuff, and treat them with puppy dogs and rainbows.
Mm-hmm.
How many times you got to get knocked on your ass to realize something's not right?
I mean,
is that a question? Or is that a rhetorical or a straight question?
That's a straight. How many times you gonna have to get knocked on your ass because someone told you something's wrong before you realize I need to change up?
Me, one or two, but it's different for everyone. It doesn't remain the same just because, you know, I'm me and therefore everyone is me. It doesn't work that way.
But I'm just saying, like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over that someone has told you and it's not working and you still expect the same outcome, what is that called?
It's called insanity, but there are a lot of insane people walking around here. We don't have mental institutions anymore. I mean, like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, I mean,
so how do you explain to your boomer parents that the way they said it to you is it working that way because of the new era in technology?
Precisely.
And information age? Like, how do you elaborate that without sounding like you're dwelling on the past? Because as soon as I do that, they say, stop dwelling on the past. And I'm like, wait, the past defined me. Y'all actually got me through a lot of stuff. This is just an after action review in progress and letting you know what's going on in the current state of situations.
Are you asking me or just to the panel?
I mean, it was a general question, but I mean, it alludes to the point. I mean, you're kind of be touching on it a lot, PK, if I'm to be honest with it. But I find this a lot of times that, you know, the same people that was saying the world don't owe you shit. You got to get out and get it, young man, rumble. In my 20s, now that I'm here, it's like, hey, don't dwell on the past. Hey, X, Y, and Z. Hey, you can peel back. Hey, why are you out there alone? Why don't you come home to family? Y'all told me being a man is this, that, or the third. I shouldn't have to rely on family. So now that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and maybe I'm not having so favorable results, maybe I am. Y'all still worried about me either way because of the life I had to lead due to your tutelage. Make that make sense?
Well, it doesn't. So go ahead, Art.
I was just going to say it's part of the schism with them. Usually, PK was hitting on a point that was true. Is a lot of these parents that were raising some of these kids weren't trained themselves, and garbage in is garbage out. Everybody who knows programming knows that. So you can get those exceptions to where these people weren't trained very well, but these people, at the end of the day, end up having children, and then they have to see this child grow up with their inefficiencies or their deficits, regardless of them. So what they end up doing is, let's say you go out there and rumble, young man, rumble, right? And what your rumbling takes you away from the family. Well, that makes them feel some kind of way because then it's like they can't get any credit off of you achieving, even though they know they didn't teach you everything you needed to achieve. But you're achieving anyway. You now have become the exception for your generation. Well, they want you to come back closer because they need, that validation that they were doing something correct. They want that validation that you have earned for yourself and not with them. So it's basically like a sympathy circle. They want you back close so they can show you off at the same time that if you were failing, they'd be pushing your ass away even further.
Precisely.
I grew up way.
I mean, Art, I get what you're saying, but that's just why you hear all this in between talk when it comes from millennials. BGS disagreed with me at first until I had to point out Charles Faulkner's example of how he had to say one word to break it down to Last Zulu about the analogy BGS was trying to make to him with clearing things up about that thing. It's certain things like that. It's certain assets and trades and things like that we picked up over time that, it's unrepresented, but at the same time, it's like, yo, do you know what we had to do to get from point A to point B as opposed to what y'all had to do? We much respect the hats will always be tipped off to y'all. But look, we was trying, man. We would either the earlier millennials were trying. We was really trying to be about the because a lot of us had Gen X big brothers and older siblings and things like that in between, and that was a heavy influence and impact. Some people had people from grandfathers from World War II putting the ism in us early on. So we all took this into consideration and accountability, and we did our best to try to connect the dot that they was trying to connect. And now we come back years later and it's like, well, we don't know what happened with y'all. We don't know how y'all dropped the ball. Well, motherfuckers, y'all put us in the gogi, and this is the result of it. It's updated in modern day because it's an information age now.
Let me respond to that real quick, Art, and then I'll let you go. This is why I make the distinction between elder millennials and younger millennials, because that's where I see the shift. You older branch of millennials really do seem to get it. Y'all be about your hustle, and you have that Generation X spirit like that in you that we already knew that it was just on us. Nobody gave a shit what was happening to us. We had to do it ourselves. We the last key generation, the first generation of kids raising their damn self. So we didn't know it all. So we had to go and figure it out. So whatever success we gained just because we had to go out there and get it ourselves, right? So seeing you older millennials, we see that in you. The younger version might not have that. They got a little bit more of the bitching part and not more of the let's just go get this shit. So that's where it comes into a shift where you all get lumped together, but you got to sift through millennial by millennial to figure, okay, this is a good one, this is a bad one, this is a whiner, this is a go-getter. It makes it tough to differentiate you. And some people, the older generations, don't feel like doing that work. So they just say, oh, y'all fucked up and just wash their hands up.
But you're correct. I see the difference between me and my little brother. But go ahead, Art. My bad.
But this is why I said, like, when it comes to me and my younger brother and stuff like that, and my siblings, like, because how we were raised, we knew from the get-go that, because my mother even told me this, as a man in this society, if you don't work, you don't eat. My mother told me that. My mother even also told me that if a woman has a child, she's going to be able to eat because she can eat off that child. But as a man in this society, if you want anything out of this life, you're going to have to work for it. Pure point blank. And so I took that to heart. So whenever I go out to this workforce, I've had my ups and my downs in it. But the thing is I never stopped hustling. I mean, there were times where I had to go walk to work, and I walked a couple of miles just for a job interview. I've said this before on this panel before, where I didn't have a car. I didn't trust the bus system to get me there. So what I did
miles every day from my job to back. But go ahead.
But what I had to do was I put on a suit. I walked to the job interview. I put a hair grease in a rag, and then when I got to the job, I had a bottle of water. I cleaned off my shoes with the bottle of water in the rag, and on the other side was the grease, and I shined up my shoes and I got in there. Now, what I think, but that's the things that I knew that I had to do. I don't see that same drive in some of my counterparts because they don't have that. I've worked 2 jobs, maybe sometimes 3. I don't see millennials working 2 to 3 jobs if they're struggling.
I don't see millennials. I don't
Go
see
ahead,
millennials
Charles.
getting. I got to come up this bitch like Madara going, putting foot in the ass of the Allied Shinobi Alliance. Got to come up in there, whooping ass. I don't see. I'm always against the 2-job thing sometimes, but I'm gonna put it in context. A lot of millennials don't want to get jobs that pay more than both the jobs they had combined. A lot of motherfuckers just want to get the easiest way out of it. I couldn't do your job as a police officer. I couldn't do your job as a what you do again. And then they complain about how much money they make when I said you had the same opportunity as everybody else. It's like it's it's like your drive as a man in this world has been so neutered by the littlest thing. I was just on the phone with my friend. He says, "Well, you got a lot of guys complaining about the women ain't shit," and I said, "Yeah, it's true. The women ain't shit. The majority of them are not." I said, "Here's the definition of it. I'm no longer dating to impress a chick. You got to impress me. You know what the fuck you're getting. Bare minimum, you're getting a man. You're getting protection. You're getting provision. You're getting a motherfucker who can problem solve and procreate. What the fuck are you here for? What are you here?" I swear to God, and I'm glad I used the Naruto reference early because it's it was one of the shocking moments when you watch the Allied Alliance, the difference in power to Madara compared to everybody else.
Facts. Woo!
That's how I look at it. You come down there, you got to be kick ass on your job. Everybody's in fucking awe. Even what's the dude with the sand powers?
Gara.
Gara. When Gara looked at this motherfucker, he said, "Is this the powers of a god?" When I was on the street with these younger cats and I'm handling business, they're looking at me in awe. Like, nigga, you're younger. You're supposed to be faster. You should be doing this. Like, you should get into drugs. Nigga, I got more drugs at one time than the whole drug unit combined in one day. I don't have to do this. I've been done that. When are you going to show your best forward? When are you going to show the greatest effort? It seems like every time you get to fucking work, you want somebody to praise you. Shut the fuck up and get to work.
And I tell you like this, Charles,
About
what I've been through, and I've been told by this recently by one of my friends and even my cousin. My cousin told me he couldn't do the things I do, and he's a Gen Xer. He played for UNC Tar Heels, college football team, offensive lineman. He said he couldn't do the things I do. I had a friend at work who I've known for the longest of time, and he recently told me that he respects me in my hustle because he didn't know if he could do it himself, for the simple fact that I've achieved the things that I wanted to achieve in life because I put forth the work. And he said he don't know if he has that same work ethic, and he's a Gen Xer.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is different for putting in the effort?
Well, because
different in the person.
Can I finish real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the fact of the matter is that if you are putting forth the effort that you need to in your life, because the thing is about it is like, if you want something out of your fucking life, what grit do you have to make sure it comes true? Are you going to make sure it comes true? Or are you just going to say like, well, it's too hard, I can't do it? And a lot of people are just going to say, it's too hard, I'm not going to do it. I was never like that. My brothers were never like that. Now, my sister was like that because she fucking stole $1,000 out of my ass because she was a swindler. And that's why she's in this position she is with her kids.
Can I connect a doc for a second? I think the same people.
I think Artisan, Bruce, and then.
All right, yeah, go ahead, brother.
Charles.
Yeah, go ahead, Artisan.
Yeah, I was going to say is that once you guys hit that 40, you'll see that breakdown in every generation happens. The breakdown in every generational group is half of them may get it, half of them may not. You'll see it in every generation. If you start looking back down the timeline and start looking up the timeline, you'll see it. There are boomers that ain't about shit, and there are boomers who are about it. It happens in every generation. It's just like with people. Half of them will make it, half of them will not. If you threw them all in the water at the same time, half of them might swim, and half of them will sit there and wait for somebody to save them. Or you see it like I see it because you had to manage people. You'll see it. You'll see it all the time. Oh, why I got to do this job? This is such bullshit, man. If you don't get your ass to work or go home, nobody's here for that shit. Half of them will get it. Half of them will look for some swindler's way out of the shit because they just don't want to do the fucking work. So even in your age group, that's why I break it down. Half of you got it, half of you don't. It usually ends up, I just don't know where the tipping point is.
I'll say
it's actually 34, 33, or 32. I don't know, but it's there. It's very apparent. I just don't know where it starts.
I'll feel you on that one, Artisan, but it's not even like it's more.
You gotta let Bruce get in, and then you bottom.
No, I'm about to. Don't worry, Charles. I'm about to pass you the ball because answer me this, riddle me this. What do we call people like that in the military? It was something like shammers, right?
The Shammers and the Blue Falcons.
Yes, and we was always we would always say that the much effort they put in shamming and being a Blue Falcon, if they actually did it being productive in a high-speed stellar soldier, they'll get greater results than they're getting now. Am I wrong?
Of course.
That's the disconnect I'm trying to allude to here. Like not not giving them, they ain't off the hook for that shit. No, let's make that clear. But as far as the toolage and the guidance they had early on, it's being raised as young man, especially with a lack of father. I'm starting to see a disconnect because my father's saying it, my granddad was saying it before he passed, and then I didn't really, see it until I got to my 30s. Like, God damn, I see why everybody look at me like I got a John Henry effect with my work ethic because the people that precedes me, they making up my generation look horrible. Yeah, I will own that. I will admit that. But then what was the toolage and training they had early on? And yes, when you 18, you don't got no excuses no more. How I know? I had that same shit said to me from my older brother and my father, who now say, "Oh, you should have dwelled on the past." Boo, boo, boo. No, it's an action after review, motherfucker, off of what y'all trained me on and what I got through for that training. And this is why I'm here. This ain't me complaining. This is me reviewing myself and trying to refine myself. But you're getting me confused with the other motherfuckers who are complaining all the time. And that's my issue there. But go ahead, Charles.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's another Naruto reference. Everybody wants to be Hokage, but nobody wants to go through the Churin exams. Nobody wants to go. Everybody wants
that sergeant's board, that promotional board, right?
Nobody wants to. And
PK, you're next.
I'm gonna bring it here. Life's not fair. That's the one lesson I had to learn. There's somebody going to be stronger. There's somebody's going to be faster. There's somebody going to be smarter, more efficient, more effective, more cunning. I'm okay with that. Just give me the opportunity. I've seen people who should have been fired promoted. I've seen people who literally saved multiple lives never get rewarded or any medals. Unfortunately, I was one of them. I've told people this time and time again. I'd rather you respect me than love me. You know what you're gonna get out of me. That's why when I see people go to work, when people talk about relationships, my homeboy looked at me on the. I can imagine his look on the phone when I said, "I'm not. Aren't you both trying to impress each other or trying to go when you go on a date? Aren't you both trying to interview?" No.
Yeah.
Because men are the gatekeepers of relationships. The only time I interview is for sex. So when we actually
when you made it to the date.
Exactly. If you didn't look good enough, hell, it goes back into many rules of thought. The reason why you got this lazy mentality is because too many motherfuckers are bitch made. Too many. Why should I have to do this? Just at least you got a starting point. Guess what? My first bench press test off my bench press contest, I shit the bed. I did not do too well. Now, when I was struggling trying to get 315, that's my warm up. Nobody wants to have a starting point. Everybody has this participation trophy mentality, bitching and whining like they see their mamas and grandmamas. And they don't even realize, even when your mama was bitching and moaning to the government, all she got was crumbs. All she got was Section 8 in a fucking neighborhood a rat wouldn't even dwell in.
Swung at that first pitch.
Yeah. And when you talk about effort, yes, I look at the younger millennials sometimes. Yes, I look at the Z sometimes. It's not even half will make it. It's went from okay, 10% are gonna be knocked off, 20% are gonna be knocked off. My generation, it's only a fourth. The next generation is gonna be an eighth. Next generation after that is gonna be 1/16th. How the fuck can a civilization rely on 1/16th of their people to do what's supposed to be done and survive? Now I'll give the mic to someone else.
So
ahead, Pete.
the answer to that is that you can't. However, that's how the system has essentially persisted and is set up currently. I know a lot of people don't look at it that way, but the truth is that unfortunately we try to look at ourselves because we have, or at least everyone here on this panel, from what I can tell, seems to have similar experiences in that we do have grit. But one of the things that we don't take, not us, but just in general, people generally don't take into account is the fact that maybe, just maybe, we are the exception and not the rule. The truth is much simpler than that. Usually, whatever amount of effort or input or tutelage or information that you instill into a person is generally, not always, but generally going to be the expected outcome. This isn't something that is really, I mean, you can try to debate it because people do it all the time, but the truth is this is something that has been scientifically researched over many millennia. Okay. What happens is that the experiences of any individual is an amalgamation of all the prior experiences that they've had. So who I am today is a mixture of my father, of my grandfather, of my mother, and every other person I've come into contact with prior and even now. And so all of my education and experience that I've learned isn't me being an island unto myself. Never has been and never will be. They all come from prior experience and information and input. And so we separate these two things in our brains because it becomes easier for us to explain the happenings to particular groups. You know, we're talking about millennials right now, but really this is true of every other generation before and after us. And so what we see amongst millennials isn't some uh random occurrence that comes from a lack of grit that they didn't learn or experience prior. It's generally due to some underlying issue that came before for them to become the person that they are today. We think that these things are us, and we project that out that they're just like us, and they're not. We are the exceptions, and we just need to come to terms with that. And I think that a lot of people have an issue basically pointing themselves out and saying that this is me, and that's them, but I'm something different. And everyone on this panel has demonstrated that they are something different to different degrees, right? So why are we looking? I guess we like to lump, because we're human. We like to lump all these people into one group and say they're all the same, but it's not that simple. It just isn't. And so these arguments get bogged down that way.
This is how I look at it. This is nothing but life is nothing but an recovering alcoholic at the crossroads. On one hand, you could don't go down one path to where you can recover and get better. Or the other hand, you go back and keep doing the same thing that you're doing. It's a choice. You're going to have to make the choice of what you want to do in your life. You keep doing what you want to do and keep going down that same path. Or if you want better out of your life, then you could choose. You have to choose the path that you have to find out what's going to make you better.
And this is more of a philosophical kind of thing, but I'm not going to go into it. But that's more. You start to get into philosophy and the differences in our philosophical differences, and just in general about how people come to their philosophical understandings. Because I think, a lot of people seem to believe that all of our choices are conscious, and they're not. Most of our lives are automated, and we don't even realize it. And so we start to think that, just because you thought something or you made a choice consciously, that you were in complete control over it. I don't believe that. Now, so you may believe that. I don't believe that. So I mean, there, that's more of a philosophical discussion, though.
Every choice. Oh, go ahead, Artie, since I already spoke. Go ahead.
No, just finish your sentence.
Every single choice that I've made was to better me. I have been pushed down by people who did not want to see me go any higher than I am now. I've said this before. One of the biggest factors or hurdles that I've had in my career were black women at Walmart, because I wanted to be an assistant manager, and a lot of them did not want me to be in that situation. A lot of them did not want to help me. A lot of people, the guy who was supposed to work in my department, didn't want to help me. So what did I have to do? What choice did I have?
Apply selfishness.
I went above their heads to make sure that they gave me what I needed to get. And when I did that, when I had those meetings and I let them know what was going on, there were changes being made. If I did not make that choice to better my life, to better my situation, I would still been in that same situation where I was being fucked over by a whole bunch of people. It made me have a better outcome in my life. I also made a choice that also made me had a worse outcome in my life, because I listened to a friend that made me get away from that situation and get in a job where a manager tried to adopt my damn pay because of something that was not my fault. And so I made the choice to call the board to let them know what was going on, and they fixed that shit, and I got my damn money. And I left that job after I got my money.
This is in your 20s, Art?
Yes.
Man, and I'm so glad you spoke on that, man, because, man, a lot of us was conditioned to go by, so, leave the selfishness and self preservation to the side and go by more morality, and, be a team player and help out everyone else before yourself. And that's where a lot of people fucked up, I believe, honestly, in our age group. Not the majority, but, in my case, I stagnated myself doing that very same thing. Hell, I done pushed away promotions and shit based off that and feelings and bullshit like that, instead of just being concrete, cold hard. Hey, it's about me. I need to cut to the chase and do what's best for me. I still have my dad to this day telling me that shit, like, do what's best for you. Don't you go by your older brother. Well, he's helping me out more than I'm helping him out. Okay, Bruce, but I'm just saying, just at the end of the day, make sure it's you first and not them.
But see, this is the issue. A lot of black men were taught to be passive.
Yes.
And that is the issue. We were taught to be passive. We were not taught to be fucking leaders. We were not taught to fucking go forward for the gusto. A lot of us were not taught that. We were taught just to get along, and keep your head down.
Why would you be a leader when everybody's afraid of you taking their position?
God damn it, Charles. Say that shit again for the Negroes in the back.
Why would you be a leader when everybody's afraid of you taking their position? I'm going to tell you what, this is Serbian shit that I've seen, especially with black men from the Gen X to the Millennial. It's disgusting. Oh, we got to help the women out. Fuck that. I'm not going to help you out. I even told this one female, this female was a 9 working in our department, working in my shift. She's a 9. And I mean 8, 9 waking up. Not 8, 9 where she put on makeup. No, natural. She had a flat tire. We had a spare tire in the trunk. I took the tire out the trunk, handed it right to her. Fix your tire. And I said, if you want me to respect you, you will fix your own problem. Or I will take my spare tire and go back to what I was doing. That's called making a decision. Think about it. All these women claim that they want leaders, but they'll undermine you like a motherfucker.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, it's 8:15 and Kroger closes in
Yeah, I know
an
you gotta
hour.
go.
So I'm gonna be back in about an hour because I didn't actually buy any food, so I need to go do that.
I thought you bought something.
Yeah, I bought some stuff. I needed some stuff and I bought some stuff.
Oh,
But
okay.
I didn't actually get food. So
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
yeah, I'll be back in about an hour or two, and hopefully everyone's there and we can continue.
It'll probably get continued on my Saturday stream, so don't worry.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, today is Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll be back.
It's Saturday. Okay, so you gonna queue up again late night? Okay, all right. I'm gonna try to be around for that too.
Yeah, I'm still gonna do it at 10:30.
Sweet.
Okay,
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the conversation. And thanks to all you guys for chiming in. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, PK.
You know, kind of like,
but go ahead.
Like, how come you open up this stream if you're doing Saturdays?
You say what?
I was kind of wondering, like, is this the Saturday stream? Like,
No, this is the Millennial stream. I did it at 5 because I figured most people will probably be home like around 5 today. So
they should be home anyway. Most of these motherfuckers ain't working.
Damn.
This guy. But no, I mean, to me, it's just that, everybody has a choice in their life. I think some people's lives are automated because they chose to let people make choices for them. And if you do that, you get what you get. If someone else is making your choices for you and telling you what to do all the time and you just do it and you have no input whatsoever in your own life, then you deserve to get what you get. I mean, that it is what it is. Or you're acting like a robot at that point.
Facts.
Well, that's what subconscious is. The subconscious is just the operating system that you don't understand the choices that you're making, and you're not thinking about the choices that you're making. It's just happening. It's not even really a choice. One of the things I did was that I actually tried to make cognitive choices, that I understand what the choice is that I'm making when I'm making the choices and go in that direction. So in instances where you think it's just one way or the other one, I try to forge a third path, which is my path. It may not be either one of these two extremes that are just presented to me. It may be the one choice that I chose to make in that situation that is outside of what everybody thinks you should do and what everybody would want you to do, and what you choose to do aside of all of that stuff. So to some of what he was saying, it does make you an exception in a sense, but it does leave you also in a position to where if you fail, people will be happy to say, see, he went his way and he fucked up. You should have been following the program. But if you succeed, they'll be there. I believed in them all the time.
Oh, they say, in despite of me, you succeeded.
It
Yeah.
seems that way, doesn't it?
I
Yes,
believed in him the whole time. Yeah, no, you didn't.
I
both my
believed in him
parents
the
say
whole
that.
time, even though I said he wasn't a piece of shit. Now he is
Yeah,
the
remember
shit.
all that
Ain't
help
that
I
a bitch?
gave you? Remember all that help I gave you? All that criticism? That was help. I was motivated.
I
Oh
built
yeah.
you
I
up.
was doing it because I knew you could do it.
I'm not gonna lie. I give my parents the out. I
And
give them
plus,
that out. I don't know. I'd give them that out by default. I hate to say it because they say, despite of me, you did this, and I'm like, well, if it wasn't for y'all too, this would have happened. Even though I know the fucked up shit that happened, but I don't
so,
dwell on the past. But
Yeah, I just
they bring
balance
it
it
up like,
out.
don't dwell on the past. Don't dwell on the past. I don't. It's actually I have
nigga,
to
I'm still
review.
Just balance
paying
it
for the.
out. You're
I'll
not
be
gonna be
like, nigga,
perfect.
I'm still paying for the pass.
But you can't say that to them. They like Hakuna Matata, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna say, I will tell you this. I learned from the past, and I'm got here to this point now, thanks to learning from the past, thanks for y'all tutelage. But I can't forget my training at this point. I can't forget my Igogi, what brought me through this. Like y'all want me to
Yeah,
forget, but more fucked up shit's gonna happen, and y'all gonna be asking more questions if I do forget. So it's a damn conundrum, man.
life is
Well,
a
you can tell it
Kumatang.
to them, but you can't make them admit it. You're not gonna make them admit it. You just give
Yeah.
that.
Life is
Yeah,
You can tell them all day long. They're
I
not
be the
gonna take
main,
it
yeah,
on
I be the
because
main one
that'd
not
be too
trying to
much
touch on
humility
it.
for them.
And that's the weird thing about me. The other siblings, okay, yeah, you got it. They be trying to, of course, they be trying to come at it, whether it's the Gen X or the Millennial below me. They gonna try to come for their damn reckoning and retribution and all that. Me, no, we hashed that out years ago. I got my answers I needed. I executed the plan I needed to execute. I'm just trying to make sure not to make even more mistakes that I made already or that y'all made already prior to me. It's not a focusing on the past. It's a try to course correct and become better than y'all the way y'all want me to be. But y'all giving me this pushback because y'all think I'm trying to come at y'all. Y'all think I'm trying to indict y'all. That's
Well,
not the
how
case.
do you talk to them?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
because
like,
a lot of it,
I'd be like, well, while I was going through this and going through that and this and that, third, and you said this and you cursed me on that and woo woo woo, and this is what happened. Because sometimes they ask me, well, what's the situation with your license? Well, X, Y, and Z happened, blase, blase, and I guess I was discouraged back then, but I'm ready now. Well, you should have dwelled on the past. Well, no, I said I'm ready now. I'm ready for that rematch. Well, okay, but I still feel like you think no, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the mistakes I made in those tests I failed back then to better not to be able to circumvent whatever mistakes I made prior the way you taught me to do anyway rather than dwell and bitch about it. Because because I'm not bitching about it directly, all of a sudden I'm getting this pushback about past this and past that. As in before, it was like the world don't owe you shit, Bruce, right? But now that I'm not bitching about shit, it's like, well, what you doing dealing with that shit? That's too much stuff to be dealing with. That's a safety hazard. I was in the military for 8 years. What you mean safety hazard now? I got to do what I got to do to keep my fucking job and paycheck, right? Well, yeah, but still, you're unsafe. And why you out there alone anyway? Why you didn't come home fresh out the army? You see what I'm saying? I can't win for shit.
It's
what do
funny.
you
Like the
Start
reason why
analyzing.
you leave is for a better life, and then people shitting on you because you chose a better life. This is what I just say to all my relatives. Your powers are weak, old lady. Shit. Like
Yeah, it's
people
I
always
did
like,
that
why don't
thought.
you
I
bring my
wasn't.
son? Why don't you bring your son over so we can see him more? When I live right across the street from your black asses, did y'all knock to come see him? Y'all know my father's number when y'all need something fixed. Y'all know my number when you need a ticket signed, a repair order signed. But do you ever ask, does he need anything for school? Go fuck yourselves.
well, that's
It's
why you got.
amazing.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I thought
I
you were
said
finished.
it's amazing how people. Why do you think I had that post? I ain't shit till you need me.
exactly.
I
Well,
ain't shit till you need me.
that's why those people, because you're gonna have those people in your family anyway. Like I said, my sister got me out of $1,000 because when I first started out, I think it was like 21, 22. When she got a cell phone and she wanted me to get it in my name, so I got the cell phone, me and her on it. I'm paying my bill. She ain't paying her bill. Come to find out, my phone gets turned off. I figured out why, because now I got a $1,200 charge on my phone. Me working at Pizza Hut as a cook.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gonna pay that.
$1,200 is a
That's
lot
a
of fucking money.
That's a
Same
lot of
thing with Big
OT.
Bro, me working at Walmart. Yeah, go ahead, Art. I
So
feel you.
so in that instance, guess what? I learned I can't trust you with anything dealing with me financially or anything else. So guess what? It didn't happen once or twice or three times. It only happened one time, and I said, nope, not again. I had to make a choice at that point to just say I can't fuck with you like that.
It's funny because I had a conversation similar to that. Like he's like, "Why do you talk about women so much?" I said, "Because I know enough. Because after dealing with women for at least 20 years now plus, you know what you like and you shit is sure I know what you don't." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I can use a V8. Fuck this." Like when you can actually refuse and be like, "Nah, this cigar tastes better." Like you got to be exceptional. Like this is the reason why I'm not anti-woman. I'm not anti-black woman. I'm just pro-black male because nobody goes through the shit that we go through in America, especially. Well, you got to go through so much as a man, and then as a black man, which is almost 4 times as worse. And people tell you, "Well, buck up, kid. It's gonna get better, nigga." I'm buried underneath concrete and sand. How the fuck am I supposed to get out? And you gonna tell me it's gonna be better? Well, you know, at least it's not steel. And then you see a beam fall in front of me.
Back in my day,
Back in my day, like, shut up. Your power's a week old, man. Shit. Like, god damn. Like, and then you gotta have some, and then people expect you to have some dignity while you're doing it. Like, well, you should be the bigger person. No, 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 fuck no.
be the
Maybe I
person,
should
Yeah,
make
be
let
a
the
me
person
jump
that
in.
rules
Let
juggernaut.
me
my
jump
adult
in on
life.
that. Let me jump in on that. Charles, I had that very same conversation with my mother before about that being a bigger person shit. I looked her in the face and I told her, like, when you take the high road so long, you just end up alienating people. Fuck that. It's like,
Like,
there's only
fuck
so much high
losing.
road you can take. Fuck that. They can still keep doing what the hell they doing, but I have to keep forgiving them for that shit. No fucking way. No. Fuck all that. I can jump down there in the dirt with them.
Not
Hey,
and then go ahead.
no, I just say, you know what I would say? It's like that motherfucker 6 foot. He the bigger person.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bigger person. Fuck
Man,
him. They
Like,
need to come up to my level.
everybody's bigger than me when I'm low crawling. So fuck that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be the bigger person. I'm going to low crawl and I'm like, guess what? There's got to be some type of retribution. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There has to be some retribution, some payback.
There has to be. It comes, Charles. I look at it like this: karma is a dish best served cold, and the bitch never losing her dress. It comes. I might
Mhm.
not have to do it to you. It might just happen to you because you did some fucked up shit to me. I might not have to do it. Fine.
You
I have to
know,
tolerate that shit in some senses, but in other senses, it's like, no, like Art had to do with his job. No, I need to take some action here to make sure it does happen to your ass because you
Yeah.
deserve that shit.
Yeah. Go ahead,
And the
Bruce.
times I've done it, it's actually happened.
I mean, it's like what y'all saying, man. It takes, gotta be some type of retribution, reciprocation, what have you, or whatever, man. Like, okay, I get it, man. I can carry the load to be the Atlas. I can carry the shit on my back for only so long. But when are y'all gonna do y'all part? This is a team effort. We supposed to be in a team spirit, and y'all for so long you're telling me to do this, do that, be a man, woo woo, work through this shit. I've done it. I came back, showed the results, and y'all like, well, what are you doing out there alone? Come back home and implement your assets you have now. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what do y'all do to make that happen for me on y'all end? You know what I'm saying? It's like, god damn, like look, man, I done moved heaven and earth, been around the world or back again, and everything else
yeah.
deployed.
I can't
Yeah.
find my baby. I don't know when. I don't.
Well,
Keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
I done it. I done the deed. I done the work. I shed blood. I fucking shedded blood. I done my part. What are y'all gonna do now? Like y'all gonna tell me the same retort y'all told me when I was a paladin? I learned when I was a young 20-year-old little shit kid. I get it. Yeah, I get it. You need to get the fuck out there. The world don't owe you shit. Get out and get it. Rumble, young man, rumble. But then when
Like,
I
how old were
do,
you when you joined the Army, Bruce?
well, shit, I was late. I was about what 24, 25. Because I mean, you can bear in mind, bear in mind, it was the Bush era. My folks is very liberal, including my 20-year Navy dad and even my grandfather. They was not trying to have me do it. But when that recession hit and I couldn't find a job, no matter how many fucking roads and streets I walked up and down, filling up applications, talking about asking if you bilingual with this and the X, Y, and Z that, I said, well, something got to give, man. I'd rather die to live to die. That's exactly what I told my own man.
Here's the point that I make. Your dad is a Navy vet of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're how old now?
36.
36. So during the time before the recession and all that shit hit, you'd have been good.
Correct.
I'm not saying you were good because of it now, but you would have been ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how, like, you can literally shed your blood or somebody else's. And it's like, it reminds me of that Bible verse. Actually, it reminds me of two. The first one for Artisan, which is Psalms 110, verse 1. And the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstools. And the other one, I keep forgetting that actual scripture. But it goes, though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, though I offer my body to be burnt. But if I do these things without charity, it profits me nothing.
Precisely. And
And
that's
that's
the
how I
point.
feel. That's how it
Yes.
feels.
Yes, exactly. Especially in your case, Charles, 'cause I tune into a lot of your streams. I feel where you're coming from. I would say I'm at a smaller scale, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I just got, lesser too. Maybe I'm more handicapped, but I just got so accustomed and used to having that handicap of, disadvantage that I just I drive on. We call it driving on, right? So,
You gotta drive home.
exactly. So when they come back to me with all this bullshit critique, I'm like, okay, it's cool for y'all critique, but don't tell me don't dwell on the past and try to critique me at the same damn time. I was a different person back then than I am now. Now I say I've seen the world. I'm a fully realized man now. Y'all can't bullshit me no fucking more, even if you're
Bruce, I'm
fucking.
gonna give you a piece of advice, Bruce. There are some people who are never gonna see you beyond what they've seen you previously. People's eyes cannot perceive what their brain will not allow them to see. And that's usually the biggest trouble when talking to family or friends. Like most of the streams y'all see, most of my friends got something to say. Why are you talking about black women on the show? Why are you talking about black men need to get their shit together? I said, nigga, weren't you in a 10-year relationship when you said we were breaking up 5 years prior to that? What happens to a guy who, when somebody tells them it's okay to go when it's toxic?
Yep.
Gosh.
Nobody told you this. Everybody told you you need to stick through it. But they tell the bitch, well, you need to go. I'm talking to a female friend now through text message, and she's worried about child support. Why did you have a baby? And the guy's a crane operator, so they make decent, pretty good money. Why did you not marry before you carry?
She didn't want to.
They
She's going to set up where she knows she doesn't have to.
And guess what? That is a choice that they do.
Yeah, but yet, like I tell people, I'm a man of logic. Believe it or not, your body, your choice. You weren't on birth control. You didn't have any guarantees set aside for this nigga not to go or take it. Well, he only sees it once a month, and he gives like 100, 150 a month. I'm like,
that's what she upset
well,
about.
her daycare is 300. Her daycare is 310. See, there's a difference. There's a reason why I'm gonna have a stream, and it's gonna be called "There Are No Strings on Me." You might want to tune into that motherfucker, because all the excuses bitches have, and we know the difference between a lady, a woman, and a bitch, don't we, fellas?
Very much so.
When I had to pay for my son's nursery school and his mother made excuses, you think I went downtown to go for child support? In my mind, you can't get blood from a stone anyway, you pay it. But see, when you're the man Nothing's supposed to phase you. You're not supposed to have kryptonite. You're not supposed to have weaknesses. You're not even supposed to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Oh, that compound absorb damage. I know it's at the 3 hour art.
Yeah, that's at the 3 hour. Any last questions, or well, not questions, but anything, last statements on millennials and on anything for you guys?
Who wants to go first? Go
I'll
ahead,
just
Charles.
say this. Be defined by your works and not your attitude. Be defined by your charity and not your selfishness. Be defined both by your assholeness and your accountability. Have some respect and have some responsibility. Have some strength, but also have that resolve. And never be too big to say the words, "I'm sorry, now I'm ready to learn." Woo!
Go ahead, Bruce.
Precisely, to piggyback off what Charles is saying. Look, man, especially to us millennials, whether you're younger or older generation. Look, we've been Rocky Balboa on them ropes getting our ass beat by Mr. T for a while. I mean, even if we fall, we still got to stand back up and make that shit right and correct. In fact, falling down is the lesson with it itself. You don't got to stay down. You don't got to, and even if you're not on that level, get to that level. Put in the work, grind, and push through it, because especially for black men here in America, you're not going to get no excuses. It's unforgivable. It's like the steel cage, man. It's not gonna. You're not going to get no leeway or excuses or no recompense, except for what you make for yourself through your actions and your words backed up behind the actions you already implemented, made, and established. Move forward, drive on, and do what you need to do to make the necessary point to establish your rep in order to get things done and push through the shit you need to push through. Because at the end of the day, it's on you. It's just you until you come across like-minded comrades like myself, Art, and Officer motherfucking Charles. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to be that way for a while, but I mean, that's cool because you're polishing yourself. It's iron sharpen iron, and then once you get to the point, you can take it to the next level. But you got to do the leg work first to get to that level. I know it's harder for us. I get that, but as much as it is harder for us, that's going to make us even more stronger and superior in the outrun anyway, and in the long run anyway. And then I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. My last point is this: complain less, do more. That's it. Complain less, do more. And with that, I am out. I'll catch you guys at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have the open Saturday hangout, and I'll catch you guys later.
Got more people complaining about me not complaining enough. Peace, y'all.